At 10 with the BBC News, this is Stephen Davis. A 16-year-old boy will appear before magistrates in Newcastle tomorrow, charged with the murder of a girl in Hexham in Northumberland on Friday. Another 16-year-old suffered non-life-threatening injuries. The teenager accused of murder has also been charged with attempted murder and possessing an offensive weapon. Our reporter in Hexham, Peter Harris, says we now know more about the girl who died.
She was 15-year-old Holly Newton. She went to school in the town here where she was described as a truly lovely student, quiet, conscientious and kind. The families of the teenagers involved there continue to receive specialist police support.
2 men have been arrested on suspicion of murder after a man was found with a chest wound in Exeter last night. The victim in his 40s died in hospital. 2 others are being held. The Lib Dems say Nadeem Zahawi should now stand down as an MP after being fired as Conservative Party chairman for a breach of the rules governing ministerial standards. The Prime Minister asked his ethics advisor to investigate Mr Zahawi. When it emerged, he paid a penalty to Revenue and Customs to settle a multi-million-pound tax dispute. The former Conservative Attorney General, Dominic Grieve, says Mr Zahawi should have just resigned.
It is quite worrying that we seem to live in an age today where an understanding of what it is to be a minister and the responsibilities to go with it seem to have sort of largely evaporated. And instead you have to wait for an outsider to come and tell you what is obvious.
The Housing Secretary, Michael Gove, is to announce new rules tomorrow to crack down on unsafe cladding on buildings. There'll be a 6-week deadline for developers to sign a contract promising to fix their unsafe towers. If they don't, they could be banned from the housing market. Mr Gove has admitted regulations were faulty and ambiguous before the Grenfell Tower fire in 2017. Sophie Bishner from the UK Cladding Action Group has welcomed the proposed changes, but says some tenants still won't be covered.
There are many leaseholders and residents in these dangerous homes where this announcement won't make much of a difference. So for me, for example, my developer essentially no longer exists. So there's no one there to be held accountable on that side to make the building safe. And there are many leaseholders who are in buildings that don't qualify for help and protection. They don't qualify for government support and funding.
Dame Esther Ranson says she is remaining optimistic after revealing she's been diagnosed with lung cancer. The 82-year-old broadcaster and campaigner said she was undergoing various tests to assess the best treatment. Football, Sheffield United have narrowly avoided being knocked out of the FA Cup by Wrexham. The Welsh side are the lowest ranked team still left in the competition. The match finished 3-3. That's the BBC News. It's 3 minutes past 10.
We are here, you are there, with our life back.
Good evening. How are you?
BBC Radio Manchester.
I'm Alan Beswick. This is the Alan Beswick Late Night Phone In. We're here till 1 o'clock. You can talk about anything. The number with which to join us is 0800 218 2255. And that's it, really. We don't do all that internet gubbins this time. I mean, we're on the internet, of course we are. We're even on BBC Sounds, heaven forfend. But we don't do all that other stuff because it is exactly as described, a phone-in. So you ring 0800 218 2255. This evening you will be responded to. In other words, phone will be answered by Luke. Will then take your details, say good evening, and pass your details to Talat, who's producing. He will ring you and connect you with the telephonic Bob. I think that's a technical name for it, which is being controlled this evening by Kieran, who will connect you with me, and we will have that conversation. So that's the gist of it, really. 0800 218 2255. And in the news today, the Archbishop of Canterbury wants Harry and Meghan at the coronation. I'm kind of with the gone with the wind attitude, you know, frankly, ma'am. I don't give a damn. But do you think the renegades are happy? Harry, and, you know, you hear about them a lot, Harry and Meghan, but do you think they're happy? Publicly, they never stop whining, of course, but at home, do you think they settle down by the pool and smile a lot? I do hope so, but I'm not sure that I expect it. Apparently Beethoven, that one, yeah, Beethoven never got laid. Researchers who've been studying his life diaries, paperwork and stuff reckon he never engaged in sexual intercourse during the time of his life. Well, he wasn't having the time of his life, but you know what I mean. Well, I mean, he must have done something for fun, mustn't he? So you'd have thought he'd have lost his sight, not his hearing. Anyway, God save us all. It's got more complicated again. Now, B-A-M-E, BAME, is not acceptable because it lumps black, Asian and minority ethnic people into all one lump. It's kind of racist in itself. The term BAME is racist because, as I say, it lumps everyone who's not white ends up in this amorphous mass. Instead of saying B-A-M-E, you could just say T-H-E-M, meaning them, not us. Defeats the whole object of diminishing the concept of difference. Ludicrous. And did you see that model in a dress that had a fake lion's head? Honestly, if you didn't see it, you've got to look up a picture. It's the daftest thing you'll see for a while, but she's wandering along, and she's got a frock on, which is fair, and she's got a fake lion's head over her left breast. So, well, you assume it's under there, you know, it's a big head. But, you know, but it looks like it. That's what it's about. And it's just weird. I mean, it's only the catwalk. They wear all sorts of strange stuff. But it's quite clever, really, because it did two things at once. It covered the woman's right tit whilst making her look like a right tit. And as you've been hearing all day, the Prime Minister has finally noticed that they're getting stuffed in the polls. So he has sacked the Conservative Party chairman, Nadeem Zawawi, for perceived mind, but much denied jiggery pokey. I suspect that some party members will celebrate with a party for which I have the perfect song to celebrate at that party. Dean Martin and Zawawi. No, I'm not going to. Too late. 0800 218 2255. You want to join us? Good. We want you to. We don't have a programme without you. Well, we do. We have to play all kinds of music picked by a computer that I don't trust. Let's get started. Aldo, Finley.
Good evening, Allan.
Good evening.
How are you?
Awfully well, thank you.
That's good. I've got a joke for you tonight. Just a one, though. What's the difference between Dubai and Abu Dhabi?
I don't know. What is the difference between Dubai and Abu Dhabi?
In Dubai, they don't like the Flintstones, but Abu Dhabi do.
Very good, very good. Yabby dabba do. We like it. Thank you very much. That it?
That's it. Thank you, Allan.
Have a good night. Very nice.
Thank you.
I'll do Hillary.
Hello, Allan.
Hello, Hillary.
I was just wondering if you'd heard that Les Barker has died.
I hadn't heard.
Well, I heard it mentioned on the folk show on Radio 2 last Thursday. And they had one of his pieces, one of his monologues. And I think it was him, well, it was him reading it. It was obviously a previous recording. And it was called Buying Cats for the Blind.
Yes, it's
I've
from
never
that
heard
LP.
it before.
Nah.
Yeah, I've never heard it before, but apparently he wrote over 80 books with these monologues in.
Yeah, he did. Loads and loads of them.
Yeah, and the person who did it was, who mentioned it, was praising him and saying, oh, he's going to be greatly missed. And,
he is, he's fantastic.
Yeah, so I just thought I'd let you know.
Thank you. I didn't know, so it's good to find out.
Yes, well, I thought you'd want to know about it. So I'll say good night and make room for the next caller.
All right, well, thank you very much. If you wonder who Les Barker is, we played one of his records last night. Well, it was me performing it, but Les wrote it and did all the work to sell it and all that stuff. It was an album called Guide Cats for the Blind, which was for a charity that provided computers for people who were severely visually impaired or blind. And it was a good charity, and lots of people got involved. And when he's died. So I don't know what of, because I've only just found out he has, but he was thin as a rake, and he used to run miles and miles and miles. He was a phenomenal runner. He used to do hill running, which is why he moved to Wales. Not near me, you know, I near him, but there we are. How do Ray?
Hi, Allan.
What do you want to talk about, Ray?
Yeah, I want to talk about, capitalism and socialism. Do you think, Allan, capitalism is more harsh than socialism?
It's not an easy question to answer that. Capitalism is, in its own way, harsh, but it depends what you mean by socialism. If you mean socialism as is practiced in China or the former Soviet Union and possibly now Russia or Cuba, I'd say that was pretty harsh as well.
Well, wouldn't you say like Labour is more like socialism? Labour's like socialism, isn't it?
I think Labour's closer to socialism than the Conservatives are, but I don't for one second think the Labour Party is socialist.
You don't think so?
No.
When Jeremy Corbyn was leader of Labour, he wanted a socialist country.
He did, yes.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is that, I think if Corbyn was in power, I think more people who were on benefits would have had more money, and he would have taxed the rich.
Well, that may or may not be true, because we can't know, we can only assume. But unfortunately, in order to get into that position and introduce those policies, you first of all got to win the election, and he couldn't even hang on to the leadership of his own party.
No.
So the reason he couldn't hang on to his own party is because the Labour Party, in its voting internally, doesn't seem to want the kind of socialism that you are, if you like, attributing to Jeremy Corbyn. So even the Labour Party didn't want it.
See, I always say, I think, the newspapers, like the Sun and the Daily Mirror, they were hounding, Corbyn, making lies about him, saying he's anti-Jewish and anti-Semitic. And I don't think that was true, what they were saying about him.
Yeah, I think you probably mean the Mail rather than the Mirror.
Oh yeah, Daily Mirror. Well, I'm saying Daily Mirror or the Sun.
Oh, the Mirror. You do mean the Daily Mirror?
It wasn't the Daily Mirror.
I don't know. You said the Daily Mirror, and I thought the Daily Mirror was more to the left than other newspapers.
Oh. No, there was. I know, the Sun was saying really nasty things about him, which is, I don't even like the Sun myself.
Well, indeed, it was when you said the Sun, I didn't have a problem. You then said the Daily Mirror, and I found that interesting because I thought the Mirror was more of a leftish newspaper than a rightist newspaper like the Sun is.
You see, I'm not. I know the Sun's right wing, but I don't know the other ones that are right wing.
You quoted the Daily Mirror. Are you telling me you quoted a newspaper that you hadn't read?
I've read the Sun newspaper, and I didn't like it. That's what I'm saying. But I've not read the Daily Mirror.
But you quoted two, and I'm asking you because I was surprised. If you'd have just said the Sun, I would have had no problem with what you said. But you said the Sun and the Mirror, and so I'm asking you now because you seem to be retracting it slightly. Are you saying that the Mirror was anti-Corbyn? The Mirror.
Well, I don't think so. No, that was a mistake. But I'm saying the Sun. I'm saying the Sun newspaper were making lies about him, and which I believe that there are places like Liverpool do not like the Sun.
Yeah, that's not to do with its politics, though, is it? That's to do with the disgusting things it said after Hillsborough.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But I'm just saying Scousers don't like the Sun, so you know what I mean.
Well, yes, I do know what you mean, and as I just said, that the history of that is that they said awful things, untrue things, but awful things after Hillsborough. They said some disgusting things.
Yeah, they said. Yeah, they really did, and I think that's the thing. I think when they were saying bad things about Corbyn, but I don't think it was true that he was anti-Semitic. He wouldn't be, but he just wanted to.
When you say he wouldn't be, that's a presumption. There have been stories suggesting that within the Labour Party there is anti-Semitism, but I suppose there's anti-Semitism all over the world, so it wouldn't be surprising if it also existed within the Labour Party.
So you think one of the things that where the newspapers was like the Sun newspaper was saying to Corbyn, you do this, you do that, and then he refused. He said, "No, I'm not gonna do what you guys tell me to do. I'm not gonna do what the rich people tell me to do. So I'm going to tax the rich."
And
that would have.
Well, it would have done all sorts, but he didn't get elected, so it did nothing. Because the thing about a democracy is, before you can do anything, you need to get elected, and he didn't.
Yeah. Well, that's just what I think. I'm not saying I'm right what I'm saying, but I just think that's what he would have. That's what would have happened. It would have been good if you taxed the rich instead of taxing the poor people.
Well, the rich already pay considerably more tax than poor people do individually, but that doesn't mean they pay enough, and maybe they should pay more or not, I don't know. But as I say again, it's all very well standing there and saying, as Corbyn did, I am of the left, I believe in true socialism, and people said, fine, you stand over there, we're going in here to vote for somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like people. I think one of the things is that when people don't vote for Labour, because they always, the British people will go oh well, Labour's not going to do nothing about illegal immigration, but they think the Tories are going to do something about it. But that's not always true. That.
Well, true or not, people don't vote for truth; they vote for what they believe.
Yeah, that's
and the last person to win an election on behalf of Labour was Tony Blair, and there aren't many people who would pick him out in a line as being a socialist.
No, they wouldn't. I think he was. I don't think he was socialist.
So if you want to win the election and change things, you've got to be not hard left. And he did a lot of socialist things. I mean, he improved the schools by all accounts. He improved the hospitals by all accounts. Did lots and lots of things that socialists would have wanted, but he didn't do it by left-wing extremism, which is what Corbyn wanted. And so people said, thank you, Mr. Corbyn. Sling your hook. We need someone that can win.
Yeah, and then there's Boris Johnson.
Well, he was in the other party, you might have noticed. But good to talk to you,
Yeah, no.
How do Lindsay?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah. I think that fast food restaurants and other restaurants should wear gloves all the time. Well, because we went to a fast food restaurant today, and I mean, you can sit in, and they wear gloves, and even before COVID, they used to wear gloves.
Okay.
The people dealing with food should, even when I'm dealing with food, I wear gloves sometimes, and even when I eat food, I use gloves.
Right.
Because I think that's how you get germs.
Well, fast food restaurants, they don't call them slow food restaurants, do they? Have to pass certain health standards and indeed display the results of that health examination. And they have to meet all kinds of different health standards. And if you look at the entrance, the door or somewhere like that, there will be a sign saying this restaurant, these premises have been checked, and this is the level they've reached in hygiene standards. And if they don't reach the minimum level, they're shut down until they've cleaned it all up.
Do you know what I think as well? You know when you go into pubs for a meal, when they're bringing you, especially when it's packed. I can't really eat in pubs because when it's packed, they're bringing it through, all people breathing on it. They mingling by the time it got to you.
Well, what else are they to do?
carry it up in the air like the...
Carry it up in the air?
Is it the Italian? Maybe it's just that carries it up in the air.
Right. Perhaps I could deliver it by, I don't know, hovercraft or something.
Maybe one day.
Could happen.
We'll be dead and gone.
Yeah, if you keep eating in dirty places, you'll be dead sooner than you think. But have a good night, Lindsay. 0800 218 2255. Can you imagine if they've got a very short waiter or waitress or whatever, and he's holding the food up, then it's going right past the mouths of all the people. He might even have a bat he or she won't notice. How do, Brian?
Hello, good evening, Allan.
Good evening.
You know Slade? You know the record Slade?
Oh, no. Do you mean the record? Do you mean... Sorry?
Yeah, Slade. S-L-A-D-E.
Yeah, I know how to spell it, but it's not a record, it's a band. But go on.
A man, yeah. Well, what was the first number one hit in the 70s?
Well, I've no idea.
Don't you know? No. What was the first? Yeah, you know the first hit even.
Of Slade?
Yeah.
No.
No, okay. Happy New Year anyway, Allan. That's it. Happy New Year.
Right. Thank you very much. Have a good night. They did have a lot of hits. They had a lot in America as well. I don't know what their first one was here, and my apologies to Slade fans, or even the singer of Slade, who's probably not listening, but is close enough to do so. So, how do, Joseph?
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Beswick.
Good evening, Joseph.
Yeah, what's happening, mate?
I'm sorry?
I said, what's happening?
I've no idea.
Okay. I believe you used to work in an institution.
Can I just, Joseph, can I just stop you a second? Can you move slightly away from the microphone? Because you
yeah, go on. How's that?
A little bit further would help, so I can hear you properly.
Jesus Christ, I'll be out the room in a minute. Go on. I believe you used to work in an institution, Smithtown Road, for psychiatric patients.
I did work in Septon General. Yes.
Okay. I knew a guy. What he used to do was like borrow money, right? Bit of a gambler, like borrow money, and then get himself sectioned and go into your place for 4 weeks. Was that right? 28 days, something like that, right? You with me?
I can hear you, yes. You're telling me that you knew a chap...
I said, are you with me, mate?
Who used to borrow money and then go into hospital for...
Yeah. Didn't pay his debt back. But the social would pay him the money while he was in the hospital. He would get like 4 weeks social when he comes out. And then he would pay his debts. And I realise you can go into them, the nutcase. Get yourself sectioned.
It's not an expression I'm comfortable with, but
well, that's what you do. Hang on a minute there.
The hospital.
What I'm saying to you there, mate.
The hospital only treats their illness. It doesn't sort their finances out for it.
Yeah, well, you can all make out that the mad can't deal out what's wrong with you. You're a bit of a psychiatrist yourself, aren't you? That's your job, isn't it?
No,
it was your job.
No, it wasn't. I wasn't a psychiatrist.
Okay, what was your job then? Well, hang on a minute. Go on.
What am I going on to?
What was your job in the units in Setton General Hospital?
I was a psychiatric nurse, not a psychiatrist.
Oh, nurse.
Mm-hmm.
So you just wipe the arses and things like that, like?
No. But I'm doing it now, but via your mouth. How do, Bernie?
Hello.
Hello.
It's me. Hello.
Hello, Bernie.
Hiya.
Oh, hiya.
Are you okay?
I'm very well, thank you.
Oh, it's been a bloody rough night, hasn't it?
Will you turn the radio off, please? Because otherwise...
Turn your radio off. Right, it's off. Is that better?
Okay, yeah, miles better, thank you.
All right. I'd just like to talk about national health, really.
Okay, please do.
What it is, I have a care worker coming in, and like I've got warts on my bottom.
Right.
And they put ointment on, obviously, the care workers. And then they sent me on a bus 14 miles away from home.
I can hear the radio again. When you've worked out how to operate, when you've worked out how to operate the radio, feel free to ring me back. Aldo Shafik.
I'm okay, my friend. I like to talk about our British Parliament. Our British Parliament now is full.
Shafik, before you start, I'll give you a minute. So after a minute, I'll cut you off.
Yeah, our British Parliament already full, is 100% full. King is already in the Parliament. And need a little bit change in the Labour Party, because Labour Party main reason is something else. The First Lady Cherry Wheeler knew that. I know from by the God, the angel told me what is wrong with the Labour Party. All other parties is okay. King in the Parliament, our law come from Rome. This is God like this constitution, and religion book is a holy book Quran. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Well within the time. I'll do David.
Hello, Allan. Hello there. I was wondering, there was a caller before talking about socialism and that. I mean, could you enlighten me as to what is socialism exactly?
It depends what definition you go with, but the most common one is the one that says each according to his needs, each according to his abilities. So society operates where everybody is equal in what they get from society, and the value of what they put into society is also equal. So whether they're a brain surgeon or a coffee maker, a barrister, I think we call them now, they would be paid the same money, and they would get the same benefit from that money. So it's about that kind of social equality. Everybody is equal.
Evenly spread across the board. Okay, yeah. Do you remember back? I mean, I'm thinking about do you remember his nickname, Comrade Index Card?
I don't know anybody called Comrade Index Card.
That was Stalin. That was his name. That was his. That was what he's called. Today it'd be on the computer, wouldn't it? Yeah, it'd be on the interweb, and yeah. So his name was Comrade Index Card because he had an index card. Anybody over 12 was on in the great halls of communism. It was Stalingrad. Yeah, no, the other place. Anyway, that doesn't matter. Yeah, Comrade Index Card. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then on the other side you had the fascists. Like the Führer, you know what I mean? It was, he actually, you know what? He used to tell people, listen, they'd say, listen, mein Führer, would you, what do you think about what we should do about this particular members of society? He said, well, I tell you what, take over it, just go for it, take over it. And they were like, and that was the rise of the Schutzstaffel. Him was the he was the pariah. Yeah, he took over that, and he just because he was told to, so he did. He just saluted him and said, "Yes, mein Führer, I'll do that exactly." Which he said, "Well, you do know what you're taking on, don't you?" Which was, you're a political soldier. You're not just an average soldier. You're an armed civilian. Well, no, you're an armed political soldier. And they were like, well, what does that mean? He just said, well, you have the ability to, to basically kill anybody on sight. You're the judge and jury and all that. Sorry to be so negative, but yeah, I mean, that's the other side of the coin, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? I mean, he invaded them and they got battered, you know what I mean, in Stalingrad. But, you know, it's incredible. But, Stalin, I mean, you know, Comrade Index card, yeah, I keep referring to him as. But, I think he was quite an amazing person. I've read a lot about him, and, have you any judgments about him? What do you think, Al?
Well, history judges him for us and has him down as a particularly nasty dictator.
Yes, he definitely was. Yeah, he subjugated all those people. He starved them, didn't he? I mean, again in the Ukraine, you see that again, like the new one. You know, I mean, Rasputin, President Putin. You know, he's he's doing the same thing. He's taking over the Ukraine because he's going back in history saying that it's part of our territory. It's ours. We're going to take it back. And, I'm bless those people. You know, they're going through hell. And, I hope it doesn't go on much longer. But it worries me a lot. You know what I mean? That you know what I mean? Is that the end of his ambition? Or do you think he'll go carry on?
I don't know, because if Ukraine succumbs and he takes over Ukraine, then if he carries on in that direction, invades the next country is a NATO country, and that's a much bigger enemy than just Ukraine. And all the clever money says that he was shocked, and he's still shocked at the amount of resistance he got in Ukraine. He thought it would be a walkover. He thought it would be fairly straightforward. He would overwhelm them with superior power, but it turns out that isn't the case.
True, he said it'll take a couple of weeks. You know, I mean, we'll sort it out in a couple of weeks. But that's obviously not the case, is it? Do you know what I mean?
Certainly not.
Yeah. And you've got the Baltic states as well. I mean, they're worried. They're like, looking over the shoulder, thinking, "Oh my God, what's going on here?" You know what I mean? I mean, Germany are like toing and froing. They don't know what to do. What do you think about the tanks, Aldo? What do you think? Do you think about, America are giving 31 Abrams A1 tanks, which are fantastic tanks. They're anti-nuclear. They could survive a nuclear blast. I mean. All that, but 31 tanks, it's not a great deal. And the Russians have said they're going to burn in the streets just like the others. But I've seen the opposites, So, do you think it's a good thing for us to give tanks? I mean, we're NATO countries, but we are. It's mission creep, isn't it? I think myself personally. What do you think?
Well, we are a NATO country, but Ukraine isn't. So there's no obligation on any of the NATO countries as a result of their NATO membership. There's no requirement for them to support Ukraine. So a number of nations are choosing to do it of their own volition without invoking NATO. And United Kingdom is one of them, as is Germany to a growing but lesser extent. United States, of course, is doing so as well.
Yeah, well, Germany are a bit reluctant, aren't they, to get involved? They're a bit like, they're a bit hostile. So they really want to be. I think they want to be, they want to be sort of. I can't think of the word right now, but they don't want to get involved. They're neutral. That's the word. Neutral. They want to remain neutral.
Well, they're not going to be neutral. That's not possible for Germany. They're not a neutral country. But they've got two things going on. They, after the Second World War, when they were confined to staying within the borders of Germany, as adjusted by the war, and then they were forbidden to rearm, because that's where all the trouble began for the Second World War, with Hitler rearming. And so it's only in recent years, about a decade ago, when international law said, OK, Germany can now, if they wish, have troops outside their own country. So they walk slowly into conflict outside their borders because they've not been accustomed to it.
That's right, yeah. Do you know what I think? I call him Rasputin, President Putin, disrespectful, I'm sure. But I think he's walking forward by looking in the rearview mirror. Do you know what I mean? Into like a disaster. You know what I mean? But because NATO's going to have to get involved in this. I think personally, it's only my opinion. It's not worth anything. But I'm a bit worried that this could escalate into something really awful.
Well, at the moment,
tactical nuclear weapons. Tactical nuclear weapons can be
in order for NATO to become involved in the conflict in Ukraine, NATO would have to change its constitution. And in order for it to change its constitution, it would need Russia to vote in favour of it and China to vote in favour of it, and neither of them are going to do so. NATO can only get involved in conflicts that involve NATO countries. And I'm afraid the Ukraine is not one.
That's right, yeah, I know. But they wish to be, don't they? But NATO is like, nah, we're not. They've always been
it takes a long time to join NATO. It's a long process, and it requires all the countries already in NATO to agree to it. And I don't think it is necessarily a unanimous requirement, but it requires NATO to say, OK, you can join. But there are all sorts of things that go on or went on in Ukraine that NATO wouldn't approve of, and those would have to stop before they could join. From what I've read, I don't know anything about international politics, only what I've read.
Well, you seem very enlightened to me.
Well, only from articles.
Yeah, me too. I'm very interested in the Second World War. That's what I know about Himmler. Can you believe that? He asked the Führer, he said, do you know what I mean? What do you think we should do about A company? He just said, take over it. Just take over it, you know what I mean? And he was like, okay, yeah, of course. And then he got, I think it's Hugo Boss, those wonderful suits they wore. I used to have Action Man when I was a kid. And I used to have the American Action Man. I'm sorry, I'm changing tack a bit here, but I used to have the Action Man, the American one, which was dead slovenly and really ridiculous. And then I had the German one, which was superb. And even as an 8-year-old kid, I loved the German uniform. And I think it's Hugo Boss who designed those uniforms. Sorry to change tack a little bit here, but those wonderful uniforms with the SS Schutzstaffel, the arm, the Waffen SS. Anyway, yeah, sorry about that, Al. Gone off on a tangent there. All right.
That's what we do here. We go off on tangents, but good to hear from you, David. Have a good night. Don't worry about the tangents. 0800 218 2255 to join us. How do, Glenn?
Hello. Is Putin going to kill everyone on planet Earth?
No.
Right. So you're saying he's not going to use nuclear weapons, is that right?
That's not what I just answered. You asked me if he was going to kill everyone on planet Earth, and I said no.
Right. So what's going to happen? Like he's still in power.
Yes, he's still in power.
He's obviously there's girls getting raped in Ukraine, people and women getting shot by Russian soldiers. So it's not right, is it?
No, and war's not right. So
why can't Putin put end to this? Why can't he talk and sort it out?
Because he doesn't want to.
You don't forget, before this we had COVID. Over lockdown and people dying. It's just one thing after another, isn't it?
Well, at the moment, it does seem that we've had a bad hand dealt for a while, yes.
But I think Putin's a very evil man, and he doesn't care about people getting hurt or people getting killed. And I think he should be done for war crimes.
Well, you may be correct that he should, but I think it's on.
Look at Saddam Hussein now. He was a dictator. He was sentenced to death by hanging and convicted against crimes against humanity. Remember that,
yeah?
Now, Putin, in the coming months, years, if he ever lets off a nuclear weapon, that could kill the whole planet.
No, it couldn't.
What are you saying? If he sets fireworks their own back, what are you saying? If he sets a nuclear weapon on his own back,
if every nuclear weapon that exists on Earth at the moment was set off, then it is possible that a very substantial proportion of the population of the Earth would die, but quite a lot would survive. For example, if Europe and North America and Russia had a nuclear conflict, Australia would be fine.
When it's a nuclear attack, what's it like? Is it a very painful death for people? Is it burn you? I think it's something. Is it actually burn? Is it chemicals? No,
it's not chemical. It's most people in a nuclear blast die at the time of the explosion, die from physical shock. In other words, the shock wave from the bomb, like when a firework goes off, it disturbs the air. When a nuclear bomb goes off, it disturbs the air, knocks down buildings, knocks down people. If you're really close to it, you are immediately fried by the heat of it. And then the further away you are, the less immediate is the consequence on people of the bomb. And the long-term consequences caused by the radiation that is released are slower to happen, but stay with you for a very long time. But everybody doesn't die. There is a row going on in British government circles at the moment about the British nuclear bomb experiments that took place on a place in the southern hemisphere called Easter Island, where sailors and airmen were sent there to measure how the bomb affected them, and they were told that when the bomb goes off, just to turn their back. They're a good distance away from it, just to turn their backs. And many of them are now claiming that the diseases they've got in later life are a result of being in situ for those experiments. So the consequences are long-term for some, but for those in the vicinity, the proximity of the bomb, they are immediate.
It is a very frightening situation, do you agree with me? What you see on the news, it's very frightening for people to watch in the world.
I don't know about frightening. I mean, it's not good news, but if it was good news, it wouldn't be news.
Dad, he's gone on. He always, when I was a kid, he always said to me, World War III will be a nuclear war.
Well, it might be, but we're not there yet.
Good night, Tom.
Good night. 0800 218 2255. How do, Malcolm?
How do, yes. I mean, I noticed in that discussion you didn't mention about the fact that the only country to have used nuclear weapons is the United States, which they did in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So we know what the effect of a nuclear bomb is, and it comes from the Americans.
I think we referred to the effect. It didn't seem relevant at the time, but there's nothing wrong with the effects.
Yep, they used it in August the 6th, 1945, and also, many people believe totally unnecessarily, at Nagasaki a couple of days later. So we know the effect of a nuclear atomic bomb. I was going to discuss the transgender issue. I'm pleased that the Scottish Government has finally seen sense, because apparently they've now blocked people who claim to be transgender, who are criminals, from going into women's prisons. Now, I mean, anyone with half a sense of, reasonableness would realise that, firstly, a criminal who claims they want to transition to a woman that hasn't actually done it may well be lying. Because, by definition, the reason why they've been convicted is because they've not been believed by the jury. Because if they had been, they'd have got off. So they're not believed because they lie. Criminals frequently lie. And so the fact that a person claims they want to be a woman but hasn't actually had their male organs removed is just incredible that such a thing could happen, that they could transfer. And I think this has come about because of the fact that Sunak blocked the Transgender Act, which I agree with as it happens. I don't agree with all his policies. I certainly don't agree with the idea of supplying tanks to Ukraine. I think that's a half-baked and ridiculous idea, but we'll move on from that. The key thing is that if you are a man, you have the male equipment. If you're not, you don't. Now, this is basic biology and basic physics. So I do not understand, given that the Scots have changed the law, or introduced a review into changing the law, my question would be, have the English? Because I first came across this, as it happens, listening to Russia Today, when it was on, before that anti-democratic effort to stop the Russian point of view was put across, as it happens, by Keir Starmer. He asked Boris, why have you not banned Russia Today? Well, I thought that was quite frankly a disgusting thing to do as someone who believes in freedom of speech and plurality of media. But I came across it because Saskia Taylor raised the issue on Russia Today, and there was a woman from an English prison who was saying that a male trans person was in their prison, and she was complaining about it, and prior to that I'd never even understood that issue. But then subsequently I heard in the media that Raab was going to, quote, change the law, but has he? So the issue is, are males claiming to be transgender allowed in female prisons in England and Wales? That's my question. I don't know the answer.
I think the answer isn't straightforward, except in absolute. So, in absolute, are they allowed? Yes. What are the circumstances? Well, I think the last thing I read about it said that each decision would be made on the individual circumstances that pertain at the time. And that seems to me a fair way of dealing with things, to have a right.
Not to me, Allan.
Oh, well,
No.
that's why I prefaced my words with "to me." If I wanted it to be "to you," I would have said "in your view," but I don't know your. Well, I can probably guess it from what you've said thus far.
It's completely ridiculous for a male, a physical male, to be allowed into a female prison. Simple as that. As a prisoner, I'm not talking about prison officers. Obviously, that's a different issue. But I find that amazing, and I think that the vast majority of people across the UK would agree with me, actually, and that's why Sunak has blocked this act. I think it's amazing. Also,
that's not the reason that's been given for blocking the act. The act has been blocked. The act in Scotland has been blocked by the British government, the British government have let it be known that they will do, because in the British government's view, it would impinge upon the rest of the country's law, and Scotland does not have the constitutional power to do that. Now, this is the first time that issue of itself, the constitutional issue, has arisen since the Scottish Parliament came into being. But the Scottish Parliament is a sub-parliament, if you like. It is less...
yeah, I'm well aware of that, yeah.
Well, then I thought you would have been aware of why it was blocked, but never mind. But it was blocked.
No, I mean, the point is it was blocked, and I think it was decision for other reasons as well. But it's the only reason
the reason it was blocked, it's quite important that we get it right. I mean, you like guessing, but it's quite important. The reason it was blocked was because it was, in the British government's view, constitutionally untenable.
Yeah, okay, that being so. But the point is that all this stuff about transgenderism and prisoners, by coincidence, happens to come out after it's blocked, because what it does is it discredits Sturgeon's ideas on this particular issue, in my view.
Well, it may well do so, but that's her view, and she's entitled to it, and
she's changed it now, because now she's saying that they shouldn't be allowed to... go into that. They've changed it. In case you haven't heard it on the media today, the Scots have now changed their position, which is brilliant. They're understanding things about human rights. They should have listened to Russia Today discussing these things, because they're quite good on human rights as well.
Perhaps they should. Ukraine would disagree, but, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, equally, there are issues as to the behaviour of the Ukrainians with the Azov neo-Nazi thugs and the surrender at Mariupol and various other issues.
Malcolm, if you find me a pure nation, do let me know. How do Fred?
Fred? Oh, yeah, it's me. Fred Blogs of Accrington.
Fred is all I've got. That's all I need. What would you like to talk about, Fred?
Well, I don't want to be disrespectful to the people of Accrington, but it's an alter ego. But I love the people of Accrington. I think the people of Accrington are wonderful. What I wanted to find out from you is, have you had a nice weekend?
Yes, thank you.
Well, for me, it's been a weekend of burdens and responsibilities.
Right.
Yes, I've had to go to the supermarket and go to the local hostelry and eat food and watch football on the television. And I've had to talk to people. That's a great burden and responsibility. And to explain to someone why God might or not exist. It's been a tremendous weekend of burdens and responsibilities. But I give it a score of 7.5 out of 10. So how was your weekend then, Allan? Have you had any burdens and responsibilities?
My weekend was fine.
Good. And did you eat any toast?
No.
And have you had a hearty dinner?
No.
And did you watch any rugby?
Yes.
Good. Well, that's excellent. Well, your weekend sounds like it's been excellent. My weekend wasn't that bad at all.
Right. Despite the burdens and responsibilities.
Well, the burdens and responsibilities goes with life's vagaries, and I mean, if one is a person who lives in Accrington and respects the people of Accrington, and the people of Accrington are probably the greatest people on the planet Earth, and we all know that because the Accrington Pals went out in the First World War and fought, and a lot of them were slain, and the people of Accrington are amongst the bravest people, and they've got the best football team in the country. Although they got beaten by Leeds, didn't they?
I was going to say they might have the best one, but they came second best in their most recent game.
Yeah, but I mean, Leeds are the Premiership side, aren't they? I mean,
well, indeed, but Leeds are a club in the country, and you said that Accrington are the best club in the country. Well, clearly, on that occasion, they were not.
Yeah, but it's a deluded opinion. I mean, a lot of us have deluded opinions. There's a lot of people who think, Leeds are the greatest team in the world, and Accrington are the greatest team in the world, and Liverpool are the greatest team in the world, and a lot of people think that they're wonderful people, and some of them are very wonderful people. But most of the people in Accrington are very nice people.
Right.
I recommend Accrington to everybody. I mean, if you want a holiday and you want to be feted and wined and dined and treated with the greatest of respect, then come to Accrington.
Right. Well, the Accrington Tourism Board, if there is such a thing, will be overjoyed at your intervention, Fred. Thank you very much. How do, Tracy?
Yo. Hey. Al, just let me say, respect to Accrington, Stanley, giving it a go and that, but they'll never be Burnley. And you'll never. You're a Blackburn fan, ain't you? No. You say you don't do football. You are. I know. Yeah. Anyway, that's not why I rang you up. I rang you up to discuss Putin.
Okay.
Right then. Yeah. I've had a change of mind, Joe. Now, originally, my yo-yo became... Well, listen. You know that dude, that other Vladimir, right? You know the one in Ukraine? Warmonger. And let me tell you, Vladimir Putin, oh, what a man. What a mighty fine man. He's an author. He's intelligent. He's got a brain on him. And if this is going out live now, Allan, this is what I want to say to Vladimir. You have got the world in your hands. You're bigger than Elon Musk. You're bigger than frigging Virgin. You're bigger than all of it, yo. You have a chance now to turn it around. Yo, make the big move. Yo, stop the war. Stop that war. Yo, or I will exodus you both. There we go, Al. What do you think?
Fine.
You putting it out there. Do you think that'll go out there?
It's already out there. Whether he's listening or not, I cannot say. But certainly it's out there. If he rings in, I'll let you know. How do Bernadette?
Hello.
Hello.
Hiya. I'd like to spoke Palestine.
Oh dear, your line is breaking up somewhat, Bernadette. If you're moving about, can you just be still?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'd like to talk about
Bernadette, your line's breaking up. We'll ring you back and see if we can get a better connection. Sorry. How do Jenny?
Oh, hello, Allan.
Hello, Jenny.
I'm just recovering from Happy Valley.
Well, don't tell me about it. I can't watch it till tomorrow.
I'm not going to. It's the best thing that's been on, but I can never sleep after it. Anyway, what I wanted to say, Sarah Lancashire's an amazing actress. They all are in there, aren't they?
They're all good, yes, but she is amazing. She's absolutely incredible.
Is she married to a writer?
No, she's married to Peter. Oh dear, I've forgotten his name. My apologies to him. He used to be the head of the BBC in the North.
Oh right.
We all knew him quite well, and he was a good bloke. And now he does. Yeah. He's gone back to doing television production. But what precisely he does, I don't know.
I remember her as Raquel.
Back in Coronation Street, blimey, that's going back a bit.
Yeah, well, the funny thing happened to me the other. This is why I rang you up. On Thursday night, I was listening. Well, I was half asleep actually. I was listening to LBC, which is very boring. But as you're not on no longer in the week, and it was like the 10 to 1, and I heard your name mentioned, and my ears pricked up. This guy, I think he was called Ian Payne, said, I ran this guy called Allan Beswick when he was at Red Rose Radio, and he called me a moron. And I thought, that's my guy, that's Allan. I don't know why he was talking to you, because I was half asleep and I'd missed the first part of the conversation, but he was positive about you. And I thought,
he's all
wow.
right.
Is it Ian Payne?
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah. Did you know they'd been talking about you?
No, I don't listen to radio.
I know you.
Only in radio.
Yeah.
So no.
Yeah, well, I just can't get to sleep unless I have the radio on. But I thought it was really funny. It's because I thought, but the way he was talking, he thought you weren't on radio either, that or he thought you were deceased. I don't know which.
Well, neither. He knows both of those things aren't correct, because he emailed me just a few weeks ago to ask if I would be interviewed on another programme he does.
Really? Really? That's interesting.
I said no.
Yeah. It's very boring. It is very, very boring. It's very London-centric, But sometimes, Allan, you don't no longer on during the week, and that's the time, and there's nothing on, really. There's nothing of interest.
Well, there is. I mean, here in the Northwest. Well, you've got John Gilmore, who's always interesting, and he's my mate.
Doesn't he always play a lot of music, though?
He does play a lot of music, yeah. It's not a predominantly speech programme, but it's a well-produced programme. It must be, because you've got the same producer as me.
Yeah, but there's too much music. You know what happens to my radio when a song comes on? It goes louder.
Really?
And so I have to, and I have to keep turning it down because I live in a flat.
Right. Well, I don't know what causes that. I've no idea. That's technology. I know nothing.
I know. Well, what you were talking about last night, American Pie, I looked it up today, and it was quite interesting. There's about five descriptions of what it was about, and the first one was about that it was about Kennedy dying in Vietnam and that the country was in such a mess. That was what it was about. And apparently, and the others that you mentioned yesterday, the other people did, and he said, he won't tell anyone at all. And the jester was obviously Bob Dylan, and apparently Dylan was really annoyed about that. They had a row about it. But this is why it's so. This program that you are on is so diverse. It's really interesting. You can learn all sorts, and anybody can get on it. And it doesn't matter who they are. At the beginning you say you can discuss anything, but whereas that program, LBC, whatever it's called, it's one topic, and it's really boring.
There's a reason for that, because that particular radio station is a phone-in station. So if every programme said you can talk about what you want, then it would be, because subjects, like the COVID and all that, the Putin-Ukraine war and all the rest of it would take over. And income tax, you just have the same thing all day. So they break it up, like 5 Live. If you want a BBC version of it, 5 Live is sort of there, and there's no music on that, by the way. But I
do listen to that.
Well, they will provide a topic because they're filling all day. Well, we're not. We're just on this time, and when we did it in the week, we were just on this time, so we can afford to say talk about what you like, and we'll take it wherever it goes. Yeah.
So it's unique.
It's not unique, not by any means.
Yes, it is. The presenter's unique anyway. Anyway, I'm going to go.
Well, they're all unique. Ian Payne's unique. They're all unique. Every human being, all 7 billion of us, is unique.
Why wouldn't you be interviewed?
Oh, I can't be asked.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't be asked telling him, because I thought he thought you wasn't no longer on the BBC, so he's obviously.
Well, maybe we got our wires crossed when we were talking about somebody else then.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember? Can you remember calling him a moron?
No. First of all, it was 40 years ago, and second of all, I don't remember any of them. I can't remember what I called people last night.
I know. Anyway, good night.
Good night. 0800 218 2255. I think, if it's the Ian Payne I'm thinking of, I think he worked at Radio Lancashire for a while. But I may well be wrong, and if any of my colleagues at Radio Lancashire know the answer to that, then do let me know, because I'm frequently wrong, but don't always enjoy it. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join me, you can talk about anything. Yeah, he's very keen on sport, which is always going to hold him back. Yes, he did. Payne began his career in 1986 working as a trainee journalist on BBC Radio Lancashire. I thought it was he, so there you are. Well, Ian, I'm not dead yet, mate. How do Sam?
Well, when someone goes to prison, for someone, if they take some time out of their busy life, there's an element of sympathy. It depends what crime they do, but if you take into consideration like free will or their friend circles or whatever, there's always an element of sympathy if this crime is not like really dark and just really twisted. So when it comes to transgender people, obviously it gets really tricky when it comes to sports and prison. But then the sympathy where they go, which prison they go, for them sort of people, it gets really tricky because it's all about what they think of them people. That comes into constant, they think about that as well. So, and it's like if they believe them, like it's almost like they don't believe them, and they're like you're biologically men. And then if they don't so that's the sympathy. It varies from different people to different people, for all sorts of different people. Does that make sense?
Right. I've never been to prison, so I don't know what goes on in there, really.
So when people say they shouldn't go to this prison or that prison, it's all about what they think of that group of people, and then that determines where they should go. It's not about if they believe their gender, what they believe their gender to be. They don't put that into consideration. Obviously, I'm not talking about this case, because this case is a bit twisted and it's a bit weird. But for petty crimes, I don't know if they're drug dealer, I don't know, like other crimes, I don't know, if you hear someone, if they run if they run someone, if they're driving and then they hit someone and they die, for some reason they have to go to prison. And then that gets really tricky, because where do you put them if you don't believe what they say? And then obviously,
well, you don't have to believe what they say in terms of the crime. They're only going to prison because they've been convicted of the crime, so that's all that matters. Now, the only time it becomes an issue is, for example, if they're guilty of a sex crime, it's then a case of, for their safety, do they need to be segregated from the main prison? Because prisons are not healthy places to be, and they're not really safe places to be for some. So do they need to be segregated and go into the segregated area of the prison, either for sexual offences, or if, for example, they're a former police officer, they wouldn't be particularly safe in prison. So it's that kind of thing.
Yeah, I have no idea how the prison system works for different stuff. But my point, the point I was trying to make, is people banging on about transgender people. It's all about what they think of them in the first place, and then where they think, if they think they could be not understanding or believing what they actually say they are.
Well, there's a whole range of things. I could decide that from tomorrow I'm female, and I wish to be spoken to as if I'm female. So you refer to me as she, her, or what have you. I can make that decision. Whether that would convince the prison estate is another matter entirely. But if I'd been living like that for 20 years, then it would be a different kettle of fish than if I decided tomorrow. So it's all that kind of thing. There isn't a yes-no interlude involved. There are many more things to be considered than just a straight yes or no.
Yeah, I was initially going to, obviously, some people, I was going to speak about mammoths, to be honest. So can I speak about mammoths for something?
Mammoths?
Yeah.
Prehistoric elephant mammoth?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, of course you can. It's a big subject, but go on.
Yeah, so the funny fact is, they existed. So they existed when humans existed. So they went extinct 10 to 11,000 years ago, and that's when the ice age sort of finished. The ice age was, I think, for 2-point-something billion years. And then the funny thing is, they went extinct 11,000 years ago. We started becoming humans, as in civilized humans, some 10,000 years ago. But so we didn't have any, some 10,000 years ago. And the funny thing is, they went extinct 10,000 years ago, but we existed when they went extinct. But before that, because they existed for so the ice age was 2 million years, and when we existed, so the ice age was 2 million years ago. They went extinct 10,000 years ago. And the funny thing is, the human, like all the different Homo sapiens and stuff, it was a crucial moment 2 million years ago for us, because that's when we sort of went different ways and different type of Homo sapiens and stuff, and that's when they existed. And the funny thing is, when we became more like humans now 10,000 years ago, that's when they went extinct. But now scientists are trying to bring them back onto Earth. They're trying to do some sort of DNA that they have with some bones and with some normal elephants, and they're trying to see if they can bring them back to like a hybrid, a hybrid one. See if they can bring them back. Very interesting. Yeah.
And why are they wanting to bring them back?
Because if you ask me, I would say there's two good arguments. One of them is because they went extinct. One, because their food changed when the world got warmer, because the ice age was ending. And second, they went extinct because humans killed most of them.
Well, that's why they're dead. Why would you want to bring them back?
Because I would like to see one. Someone like me probably would like to see one.
I'll bet all the money I've got that the scientists working on that endeavour aren't doing it because Sam wants to see one. They've got their own reasons. Have you any idea what those reasons are?
That they just could. No, I'm just telling you.
No, it's a good. No, Sam. One says no, then you can stop talking because we know your view. Do you know? No. Sorted.
No, well, I don't think there's a reason.
There must be a reason. There must be a reason.
He's not going to change climate change, or he's not going to make the...
Well, you are eliminating... So I think it's almost certainly they don't want to come back to do some art for them as well. And I don't think they want to send one to the moon. But there will be a reason. You and I may, during the month of Sundays, not guess it, but there will be one. You don't know it. Demonstrated admirably. And quite frankly, neither do I.
Why do you think there has to be a reason?
One doesn't spend all that intellectual and scientific energy without some kind of motivation.
Well, they always try. Okay. So they're white.
Are you now going to tell me that you do know the reason?
The reason is
hang on. Whoa, just a minute. A little while ago, we came to the conclusion that neither you nor I know the reason. Then you questioned whether there should be a reason, and now you're in the process of telling me what the reason is, having just previously said you don't know it. I know there is, but you don't know what it is, unless you were lying a few moments ago.
So they always search into how to, if an animal goes extinct.
So there is a reason.
Yeah. So if
right. So when you said you don't know the reason, and you're now saying you do know the reason, I'm a simple fellow. I get confused when people are spinning around going yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, when they mean the same answer to the same question. You bar me. But don't worry about it. I'm sure they can cure it eventually. Perhaps they'll experiment on you in about 12,000 years' time. We've found Bernadette again. Hello, Bernadette.
Hello.
Hello. What would you like to talk about, Bernadette?
I want to talk about domestic violence.
Bernadette, I'm afraid you're still breaking up. Try again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Right, I'm talking about domestic violence and cost of living.
Okay, the cost of living I got, we'll do with that. Go on.
It's gone up by 50p. Everything, why 50 pence?
Bernadette, I'm awfully sorry. It's not your fault, Bernadette, but I still can't make out what you're saying. No reason of yours, but it's going like that, and I can't work it out. I'm ever so sorry. How do Neil?
Oh, hi, Allan. I've just got a couple of light-hearted jokes based on what I've heard tonight so far. What is Beethoven's fifth favourite fruit?
What is whose?
Beethoven's fifth favourite fruit.
I don't know.
Banana. And secondly, what's the difference between the majority of your scouse callers and a bucket full of amoebas in salt water?
We don't do those, so good night.
Yeah, well, none of them have got...
Good night! 0800 218 2255. How do Trevor?
Good evening, Allan. I'm sure you'll be delighted here. Cryptic crossword clue time. I've got a couple for you, but I've restricted them to shorter words after previous criticism of long ones. So, give another appendage, but not wholesale, 6 letters.
Don't know.
Retail.
Oh, good Lord. Very good.
Agricultural implement at famous school, 6 letters.
Can't think of any famous schools. Go on.
Harrow.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, the second most famous.
There we go. You know the electronic guide on your telly?
I'm aware it exists.
Yeah. It gives basic information about the programmes on TV and radio through Freeview, in my case. Right. And I was looking. I was looking at the electronic guide last night, and the radio part of it, and on the 3 stations you cover for your programme, and I quote, it said, "Call Allan and have your say on the day's stories," and they give your phone number. And after that it said, "Strong language and some scenes of a sexual nature."
Yeah, that's been put on last night, I think, because a gentleman at the very end of the programme decided I was a very rude name, which is fair enough.
No. Actually, it was on all evening, Allan.
Right. So it's always.
I think it's. No, it's not on. It isn't on tonight, but it was on all last night. I personally think it was.
I don't know what to say about that. It's not me swearing.
No. Right. The headline that amused me over the last few days, for some reason, has been a media interest in Brad Pitt and what Brad Pitt is wearing. Right. And among the things Brad Pitt has been wearing is a teal-coloured velour boiler suit.
Right.
I'm not sure why, but I did like the headline, "Brad velour unto himself."
Oh, very, very yuck.
There we are.
You're kidding me. Yes, they are weird, aren't they? But at least he didn't have a lion hanging off his chest.
Quite so. Now, for my rather bizarre story of the week, I had a choice between professional hugging and puppy yoga, and I've gone for professional hugging. Apparently, a professional cuddler, one Trevor, no connection whatever, also known as Treasure, from Canada, earned £75 for an hour-long platonic hug, which sounds like your ideal of heaven, really. Your idea of heaven. Is now hosting cuddle puddle parties for groups of strangers. He said, "They're not for everybody, but they can be special and very powerful."
Oh, dear God. I'm going to Canada in June, but I shall be avoiding Google Huggy Buggle parties, or whatever they're called.
Indeed. Although he's Canadian, apparently they're currently happening in the West Country of this country. But anyway.
Well, they've been doing that for years in the West Country. Come on. I mean, I think they only do it with relatives, but they're doing it.
Right. I also always look for a scientific story, and this is a serious story, but given that I'm, to quote, a bear of very little brain, I can't quite get my head around it. But the story is that ants can detect the scent of cancer in wee. 70 black ants being exposed to urine samples from mice with tumours and also with mice that are cancer-free. And apparently, after 3 trials, the ants are able to tell the difference between samples. And I'm kind of wondering how, and how they decide they're telling the difference, if you see what I mean. I wondered if you could have any theory about that.
I don't know. It might be what they do afterwards. So they have a whiff and they run over there. And if they have a whiff and they run over there, well, we now know they're different. So their response is different. So the behaviour A and behaviour B are different, and I presume that the people who've got the we know whether it is cancerous we or we with cancerous. Yes. So when they smell that one, they run over there. When they smell that one, they run over there. So let's swap them round and see which way. Oh my God, they're going in the same direction with the cancer we. Yeah, so it could be that. Well, it's probably more sophisticated than that, but that works for me.
No, it works for me as well. So thank you for that suggestion. The final thing I was going to say, Allan, was it's been an interesting week for journalism in inverted commas. First of all, I think the Telegraph might have entirely lost its marbles. I refer to the Saturday front page, which I'm assuming you've seen, a photo of two clothed people in a bath with photo masks on, which apparently proves, in inverted commas, that the stories about Andrew were untrue. And apparently they've been the photos have been released by one of the brothers of Ghislaine Maxwell, who says he's offering it as evidence for any legal action Andy takes, and there are stories around that he's looking in some way to undo the settlement he reached over the allegations. And so Mr. Maxwell is offering this picture as evidence, and I just thought, for me, what an extraordinarily bizarre front page story, and what a ridiculous photograph, frankly.
I think it was the Mail on Sunday today. Could have been the Observer, but almost certainly the Mail on Sunday, because they hate our famous prince. They claimed they had the original photograph. And because Andrew or Ghislaine is saying it was doctored, and Andrew said, I don't remember it, so it must have been.
The picture of them together, yes.
And the Mail says that we had the original, but it's gone missing. That was lucky, wasn't it? They had the original, and the photograph was, if I remember the story correctly, because I did only read like the first word of every paragraph, because you get enough out of it for that. It's just otherwise I get cross. And they had the development shop that developed the film, and it's got an imprint on it of the date it was developed and the place and all of that, and it all seemed to fit in somehow. I don't know. Right. And I just thought, you're right, but they've lost it, so we can say what they like, can't we?
I presume they can, and the contrast I was going to make with that story, or to me non-story in the Telegraph, was with investigative journalism and the journalists who pursued the Zahawi story, despite legal threats, and brought a shocking story, I think a shocking story, to light that would otherwise almost certainly have remained hidden. I think that certainly shows that good journalism and investigative journalism is hugely important, and it's a shame that on the other side of things, inevitable I suppose, on the other side of things, there's a lot of tripe out there, really.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was a journalist on Radio 4 commenting on it. I don't think he was the one that broke the story. He was saying when you break a story like that about a rich person, you get their lawyers, who are like pat dogs, and they say, we will take you to court for libel, and your costs will bankrupt you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's quite scary, really. It will cost millions and it'll bankrupt you. In other words, the rich have the ability to buy whatever law they fancy.
Yeah, exactly so, which presumably is why there are calls, and whether it'll ever happen or not, for a look at the libel laws and the background to it, which seems sometimes to be used to just suppress the truth, really.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Allan.
Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. How do Arnold?
I'll get hold of you now. Hold on. Let me loudspeaker off. I'll do hey, how many Arnolds do you know, Allan? I'm just saying that's my name, but I born 1963. How many Arnolds do you know? Arnolds, you know?
Well, I'm aware of you.
Yeah, well, hold on. Well, I've done the dating game. I've done Celine Dion. But what? Have you got Sunday People there on newspaper?
No.
Oh, well, I'm just saying, there's a lot in the news, and if you don't mind me saying so, it's a good price, isn't it? You get £2 for a newspaper on. I got a Daily Mail one day last week, a Daily Mail.
Mm-hmm.
I think I get a Daily Express this week. And the Rosendale Free Press is not free, Alan. It costs £1.60. But Jake Berry is a local MP.
I don't think the free refers to the cover price. It's free as in freedom.
Yeah. Well, a lot of press. I'll get you here. What happened to that free paper? Remember that free paper that was going out in the 80s, shoved through every flat door? A free paper, as well as a local advertiser.
Well, lots of free papers. Lots of free papers have run out of money, as it were.
Yeah. Where you ever been to a paper mill under, Allan? I did once in Bellevue. Massive big reams of paper. It'll possibly a minute. REAMS reams of paper.
Well, I've been.
Size.
Yeah, I've been to a paper mill. There used to be a big one in Warrington called Thames Board.
Yeah, I'll tell you a good shop in Manchester. Athena sells all sorts of coloured paper. Have you been to Athena?
I've not. No, I don't have a lot. I don't have a lot of use for coloured paper, Arnold.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Oxford Road. It's like a metropolis, isn't it? That road, Wimbledon Road, Curry Mile.
Well, it's.
How well do you know Hume? Yeah. How well do you know Hume and Moss Side and Russell and all that on? You know, I got a Mancunian. I don't know how I got a Mancunian accent. Must have lived out there. You know, from Haywood, I got broad Haywood way of speaking. But where are you actually from, Allan? Is it Ormskirk? No.
No, Warrington.
In Tracy answers, eh?
Warrington.
But English in Tracy, eh?
Warrington.
All right. And what were your mum maiden name? What's your name? Allan Beswick. What were your mum maiden name for? Beswick. Mine was Maroney, my mum. Angela Maroney from Tipperary. Oh, you've been to Ireland, Allan? Have you been to Ireland?
Yes.
Where to?
Belfast, Limerick, Dublin, London, Derry, call it what you will, all around the north.
You've been when you go in Paris,
Lisbon.
you still got the Paris book, John Allan. You still got Albert by Barcelona. What a place! You've been there, Barcelona.
Yeah.
Oh, bad about that Paris. What was it called? Cathedral. What was it called? Notre Dame burned down, wasn't it, Allan?
It did, yeah.
And Windsor Castle when that burned down.
Well, it didn't burn down, but it did catch fire. It's still there.
Yeah, it was an electrical fault. And Nottingham train station, a fire started in the toilet and burnt the whole train station down.
Crikey.
Yeah. Oh, bad World War II, wasn't it, Allan, when the Blitz was on?
I wasn't alive, so I don't really know, but...
Oh, yeah, but if you go back, you can get a 1946 Daily Mirror depicting Your Country Needs You, you know, the Winston picture.
Well, it won't have been 1946, will it? Because the Second World War was over then, wasn't it? It ended in 1945.
Yeah, Nuremberg trials. What most history have you ever been fascinated by? The Tudors or Doomsday? But what's fascinated you most throughout your life? I mean, not just now. If you could reminisce, in a way, with knowledge, please.
I don't have any historic period that I've...
What about, say, Charles Babbage with the first computer? He was in a whole size of a room, and all had noughts and ones. Or the first car, Model T Ford. First person knocked over and killed by one at 2 miles an hour. Oh, recorded, yeah, you've got to look it up. What about Haywood, my town now? In the Guinness Book of Records for most pubs per population, 30 pubs for 30,000 people.
Right.
So what would you say can go wrong with the human body, Allan? Bones, blood, organs. Skin's the largest organ, isn't it, Allan? The skin's the largest organ in the body.
It is.
I didn't know that. Tell me 10 things you didn't know, Allan.
I can't tell you 10 things I don't know because I don't know them, but Arnold, it's been fascinating. How do Anne?
Hello, Allan.
Hello.
Hello. I am ringing because I am absolutely disgusted in the way you have just spoken to Neil.
Which for not letting him tell a Scouse joke.
Yeah, for not letting him tell a Scouse joke. You didn't even give him the chance to continue. And from what I've experienced of Neil's jokes, they're always extremely innocuous, innocent jokes.
I don't care.
You
Good
really
night. Good night. I don't care. How do Andrew?
Hello, Allan. I want to ask you a simple question there, but we'll speak about dog attacks and how we've reached like in the last year, and imagine we're going sort of April to April. Before I talk about that, I asked you the question, and you refuted this thing that you went on a radio or a TV show, Look Northwest, and you said that you'd have to employ heavies because you're getting maybe some sort of threats and the viable environment.
Andrew, I have never ever said that ever.
Are you sure?
Oh, yes, I'm perfectly sure. I'm really
I don't believe you, see.
I don't really give a stuff, Andrew. Get off. Goodbye. I've never engaged or claimed to engage heavies. What do I need them for? I'm bloody heavy enough. 0800 218 2255. Who was it that came on ages ago talking about Accrington? It was Fred, and he mentioned the Accrington Pals, who were, of course, they recruited soldiers from villages. The whole village were told that when they volunteer, they'll stay together and they'll fight together and they'll train together and all the rest of it. And so there were all these Pals regiments. That's what they were called, Pals Regiment. And the Pals Regiment from Accrington in the First World War suffered very, very severe losses. I mean, extraordinarily severe losses. Possibly one of the worst levels of loss of all the Pals regiments, and somebody wrote a song about it many, many years ago. This is Mike Harding singing the Accrington Pals. It's a bit long to keep on the radio, isn't it? 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. Pick up your phone, have your say, talk about absolutely anything. It's 20 to midnight, we're here till 1. How do Oscar?
Hello, Allan. Do you find it rather queer, this situation with the shortage of eggs that's been happening in the shops over the last few weeks?
Not really, no.
Did you ever hear a definitive explanation as to what was causing it? Because I heard kind of several different, a couple of different theories. That one was initially about bird flu and that they were having to choke all the chickens, and from that they went to say, no, it's not, this bird flu isn't really the cause of the problem, it's something to do with the farmers not really getting enough money, so they were stopping the supply, which doesn't really make sense because the eggs kind of come anyway and they have to do something with them. But did you ever sort of, as someone who keeps a bit of an ear to the news, did you ever figure out what the reasoning for it was?
No.
But, for all these years, we've had the supply of eggs running normally, and then all of a sudden they seem to stop and we don't get much of a clear explanation for what's actually causing it. And I'm very suspicious of it, to be honest with you. I think it's, there's something afoot, something weird going on.
Have you any thoughts what that might be?
Well, I'm hearing reports now coming, particularly from the United States, where they're also having problems, and actual chicken farmers, people who do actually farm chickens for eggs, have been reporting, I'm starting to see these coming through now, that they've changed the feed that they're giving to the chickens, and that chickens that have recently stopped laying eggs have started laying eggs again once the feed has been changed. So there was one that I saw where they've said, well, we normally give them something that's labelled as chicken feed. We stopped giving them that and we started giving them goat feed, and all of a sudden, miraculously, they seem to started laying eggs again. And then there was another one who said, well, where we are, it's quite cold, so the chickens do tend to sort of slow down a bit for the winter, but normally they still lay eggs, and our crop of chickens had gone down to laying about one egg every 2 days. And then what we've done is we've stopped giving them this off-the-shelf chicken feed, and we started sort of putting together our own mix of food ingredients and just giving them that. And now, over a period of about a couple of weeks, they've all started laying eggs again, and now we're getting like 15 a day from this little clutch of chickens that they have, and it's increasing. So it's a bit suspicious, as if...
Suspicious? In what way suspicious?
Yeah, it sounds as if someone's been deliberately tampering with the chicken feed.
Well, they may have changed the formula because the cost of feed, the raw materials of feed, if you like, have grown exponentially, and some of them are not sufficiently available. And because of the war in Ukraine, who are I believe, one of the biggest suppliers of wheat, for example, in the world. And if you have less stuff, you have to change it.
Yeah. But, I mean, I don't think there's any indication from what I was reading and watching that the feed suppliers had announced any major change to the ingredients.
They probably wouldn't, would they? I mean, when you buy a bottle of champagne, or when you buy champagne, which is an amalgam of a variety of supplies, so they can keep the taste as close to the same as possible, so they have about 15 different wines in it, and if one fails, they change it, so it's only changed by a 15th, so it hardly changes at all. Right, maybe that with feed, I don't know. Not a chicken farmer.
No, but I think if people all across the Western world, or certainly, across Western countries, the UK, the United States of America, people are suddenly finding that they've still got chickens, but the chickens are not laying eggs in the way that they were previously doing, and the feed that they've been giving them is not changed on the label, but something has obviously changed, and when they've said, well, let's just try this experiment by giving them something different, that it seems to resolve the situation, and the chickens go back to behaving and laying as they were previously. It suggests to me that
when they've given them goat feed, have they slowly grown horns?
No, they just started laying eggs again like normal chickens. I mean,
which is surprising because goats don't lay eggs, do they? Weird.
Well, I think you're being a bit facetious there, but I mean, I'm trying to make a serious point here, Alan.
What is the serious point? There aren't enough eggs.
Well,
that's a serious point.
No, well, yeah, there aren't enough eggs, but the serious point is why are there not enough eggs? And it's suspicious that some of these shortages may have been even engineered. I mean, I can't prove it, but that's just evidence, strong evidence that...
Who, in order for it to be engineered, somebody needs to gain from it. So, are you suggesting that the goat feed manufacturers have sabotaged the chicken feed so they can sell goat feed for chickens? Is that the allegation?
No,
it
I'm
seems
not suggesting that. Yeah.
Okay.
No,
so what are you suggesting? Who would gain? I mean, even the chicken feed people won't gain if they change the formula and the people stop buying it. Then they're worse off than they were before. So who's gaining from it? I'm having trouble. The only people I've gleaned from what you say so far that are gaining are the goat feed manufacturers.
Yeah, but that's just sort of an accidental thing. Where
it may well be, but it may well be accidental. But if that's not, if there is another, if somebody is manipulating it, they have a reason. Is it?
Yes.
Unless their hobby is screwing the world food supply, but if somebody is manipulating it, they have a reason. So if you want to find out who's manipulating, the first thing you do is look for who gains. There's a great expression in all journalism: follow the money.
Yes.
Follow the money.
There's a Latin expression for that, something about who gains.
Well, that's what follow the money means.
Yes. So food shortages do well, they are sort of perhaps part of an agenda which would come under conspiracy theorists, I suppose. But I mean, we do have some other peculiar things like, well, you better not eat too much meat because the cows, the flatulence from the cows when you have a lot of beef, for example, is causing climate change. So you're not going to have so much beef. You start reducing your beef intake because it's not good for the planet, which is complete nonsense, of course. Utter guff. But
as long as you've got an opinion that isn't backed by any scientist at all, I'm happy. Whilst you're using your idiotic guesswork, would you like to invest your idiotic guesswork into why there aren't enough chickens' eggs?
Somebody obviously thinks it would be good to engineer food shortages to bring about degradation of quality of life. There are people who suggest
do you think we're all in a serious dietary problem now because there are fewer eggs in the UK, for example?
Well, they want you eating bugs.
They want you eating bugs. So you think the people who want you eating bugs are convincing the the chicken feed suppliers to change their formula so that the chickens will make fewer eggs, so everybody will start eating bugs. Is that your theory? Because it sounds pretty stupid to me.
I know it sounds stupid. As long
as we all agree you're stupid, that's fine. Good night. How do Gary?
Hello?
Hello.
Am I live?
Well, you're alive and you're on the radio, yes.
Oh, gee, thank you very much. So I'm listening to that guy who've been listening to before me, I guess. When we saw him, I don't know. But the thing is, some things need to be said because you got the likes of, right, and please don't cut me off when I say this. There's an organisation called the WEF and the World Health Organisation, the World Economic Forum, headed by Bill Gates, and they're setting farms on fires across the world, especially in America.
Good night. Do have a good evening. How do Ted?
Well, right, Alan, kid. Just to say, Alan, you were brought up by Jesuits, weren't you?
No.
Well, Jesuits and Sisters of Mercy, they were very strict.
Okay.
And in the 15th century, they painted UFOs and that, and they said it was God-given and all that. But they were painting them then, and we still see them now. They're more advanced today than they were then.
Who are the Sisters of Mercy?
No, they're spaceships, the UFOs.
Oh, the UFOs are more advanced.
Yeah, from the 15th century, they had to draw them in the painting because they had no cameras or no film. So they painted them in the pictures.
Right.
But that was then. So today, what people see today, they're more advanced than then, aren't they?
Well, you told me, and now you're asking me. I don't think UFOs exist, so it's hard for me to say that the ones now are better than the ones then.
You said the other week ago, you said you believe in them?
I don't believe in the usual definition. If something is flying and you don't know what it is an object, it is flying. Because you don't know what it is, it's ostensibly unidentified. But that could be just a brick that somebody's thrown across the street. Something you didn't know what it was. Somebody's just thrown that over there. What is it? I don't know. Well, it's unidentified. Well, it was flying. Well, yeah, because somebody threw it. What is it? I don't know. It's an unidentified flying object. So in that context, yes, I believe in unidentified flying objects. Things that are flying, for whatever reason, that I don't know what they are. They are unidentified. But I don't believe in extraterrestrial craft joining us.
But do you believe in other worlds, then?
It depends how you're defining worlds. If you're saying, if you're asking, do I believe that there are other planets and other stars? Yes. In fact, if I look out of my window now, actually that was a daft idea because it's too cloudy, I can't see any, but often I can see them. The clouds When the clouds aren't there, I can see the moon sometimes, and I can see the sun in the daytime, and at the night time I can see lots and lots of stars. But I can't see them at the minute because of the clouds. So yes, I do believe there are other worlds, but whether anything on those other worlds has the ability to send a craft of some sort to our planet, I think so far, no.
Well, there's 2 billion planets in our galaxy.
I'll take your word for that. I've not actually counted them.
Well, there's 2 billion planets, and 100 million have got exoplanets like this planet. A million in our galaxy like this planet.
Okay. And your point with all those very large numbers is what?
There's 2 billion planets in our galaxy, and a million.
Yes, I've got your numbers, and very large they are too. What are you asking me to believe as a result of that very, very large number?
Well, there must be more advanced people, mustn't they, in our galaxy, like?
Statistics such as the one you just quoted leads a person to deduce that it is perfectly possible that there is life somewhere other than on Earth. But the question you asked was whether I thought the UFOs that are described thus on our planet or in the vicinity of our planet are extraterrestrial. My answer is still no, despite the fact I do accept that there must be life of some sort, statistically, there must be life of some sort away from this planet.
Well, there's 2 billion planets in our system, and that's in one galaxy. That's in our galaxy.
Yeah, all you're going to do now is increase the number by saying how many galaxies there are. I concede the numbers. I don't concede that amongst those there is a species that has sent a craft to our world. Right?
You don't believe that? You don't believe in UFOs then?
That is correct.
So what do you believe in then?
I believe in all sorts of things. I believe that ice cream is very, very nice to eat. I believe in loads of things, but I don't believe that there are extraterrestrial craft in the vicinity of our planet.
Do you believe in spirits, ghosts, and that?
No.
So you're a non-believer, aren't you?
In relation to spirits and ghosts and UFOs, yes, I am a non-believer. By definition, someone who doesn't believe is inevitably a non-believer.
Is that because you've never experienced things like that?
That is because I've considered it and don't think they exist.
And you've never experienced it?
Well, if I'd experienced it, I think my belief would change, but I haven't, so it hasn't.
Okay, Allan, thank you.
It's a pleasure. I'll do Patrick.
Yeah.
I don't know what that noise is, but it doesn't count as speech. We'll try and get you back on, Patrick, if you're actually there. I'll do James.
I'll do, we spoke last night about you going to China.
So what do you want to talk about tonight?
Well, theatre. Do you know you said the lower is 1,500?
I'm sorry?
1,500 people. You told me the lower is 1,500 people.
Well, I looked it up. That's what it seemed to say.
How can you do a Delta season then?
Say again?
How can you do a Delta season? Big enough.
I'm having trouble. I'm having trouble working out what you're saying. I don't know why.
A Delta season of ballets and operas. Do you hear me?
Yeah. Are you saying Delta seating?
Yeah. No, Delta season.
Delta season. I don't know what Delta season is.
It's ballets and operas. And play and Shakespeare, that sort of stuff.
And why is that called Delta season?
It just isn't theatre.
Well, I've never heard that, so I don't speak theatre.
But you said they do it there, lower it. How can you do it? It can't be that big.
I don't know. I don't make these decisions, but they do such things at the Lowry.
All right. I've never been there, see.
No, well, you could look at the programme and you don't have to go to see whether there's ballet on. You can look at the list and think, oh, look, there's ballet.
Yeah, you're right. I told you I've got a bucket list. 2 more things on it. I want to see the in Saffron Haven, built Copper in London. I'm going to see that next month. Another one's a bungee jump.
Right.
I'm a year older than you are.
Sorry?
I'm a year older than you.
Okay.
Nice talking to you anyway.
Well, I've learnt something. I'd never heard of the Delta season before. Thank you. I think we found Patrick again. Let's see if we can hear him this time. How do Patrick?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, hi. So I called about Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So I really want to talk about first. Generally, when there's a terrorist attack, normally in Israel, for some reason, it's not really recognised over the news. Do you know what I mean?
Our news service pays little heed to what goes on in foreign lands.
Yeah, but I'm wondering why if there's, let's say, I'll give an example. If there's a terrorist attack, let's say in any country, France or anywhere really, it'll be like the headlines the next day.
Well, we're closer to France and we have a closer relationship. The population generally has a closer relationship with France than it does with Israel and the Palestinian territories.
Even still, I still think they should say a bit more about a terrorist attack. It's very rare that they'll put in like headlines about it. Is there a reason for that? Or?
Well, the reason is that the editors of those various media disagree with your view of what constitutes news that the people in the United Kingdom want to read, hear or see.
And I feel like
we're breaking up again, Patrick. So I don't know what's causing that, but if you speak more slowly, it might help.
All right. I feel like generally, I would say most of the media, I can't say all, but most of the media have a general they more like the Palestinian side over the Israeli. I give an example. If there'd be like a terrorist act, they would say terrorist shot and killed instead of saying terrorist killed 9.
Right.
Do you know why is that, and how come they accept it?
I don't know whether people accept it. The news agenda is driven by happenings. The news reporting is, if you like, selected by editors, and editors of newspapers edit the stories and decide upon the stories that they think their readership will want to hear, and they will be driven by their own criteria for that. The same applies to television and radio news. You as an editor, you select the news that you think best serves your audience.
I understand, but is it not wrong to always go in favour of Palestinians?
I don't know whether it's wrong. It's an opinion that it's a position that you clearly would disagree with, but one is entitled to make that kind of judgment, and when you make that kind of judgment, it is inevitable that some people will say you are behaving in a biased manner. But it's not wrong. There is no impartiality.
I get what you're saying, but I feel that if all the media keep on putting Palestinian good, it automatically creates in everyone's mind that the Israelis are more on the bad side and the Palestinians on the good side, where the case might be completely the opposite, and it generally is. And just because the media just keeps putting it on the headline, Palestinian, it creates, I would say, even more anti-Semitism.
I have a problem with the concept that if one says anything about Israel that is derogatory, you're being anti-Semitic. Israel is a country. one is entitled to hold a view about Israel without having that view extrapolated automatically to be holding a view about all Jewish people.
100% agree.
Right. So to say, and I'm not doing so, but for someone to say, I disagree with Israel's policies, or indeed Israel's behaviour, isn't automatically anti-Semitic. It's anti-Israel,
100%.
if you like.
I can't explain it, but I just feel that it's not as in generally it's viewed as that Israelis are like more like the killers than the Arabs, and the Israelis are always the ones starting with the Arabs. That's what the media like display it as. Whereas it's more times, almost every time, it's very rarely that Israelis would start. Most times the Arabs commit attacks against Israel.
Might I suggest to you, Patrick, that you're coming to it from your perception? There's nothing wrong with that.
My view of Israel.
Yes.
Yes, I understand, but I still feel that people can get very influenced by it.
They can.
Is it not wrong? People, I'm saying anti-Semitism will definitely reach much higher, and is it not wrong?
You have once again attached thoughts and comments about Israel and described them and interpreted them as anti-Semitism, and I reject that interpretation, although there is a tremendous amount of anti-Semitism in our society.
I understand. Even though you reject it, the problem is most people do not reject it, and they don't understand your view.
I can't operate for most people. I have to go on what are my views and what I think is a perfectly reasonable position, and that is, and you've agreed with it, that to criticise Israel is not to be anti-Semitic.
Mm-hmm. The only problem is most people take it the wrong way. I understand and do understand you have your way of viewing, which is very good, but since most people would take it the wrong way, which is probably a fact, most people take it the wrong way, isn't it still not bad?
Well, all one can do, whether you're a newspaper journalist, a columnist or what have you, is to express the view that you hold. Now, if that view is factually inaccurate, then that's a matter to be addressed. But if that view is factually correct, but people take it the wrong way, no one can do anything about that. All we can do, 100%. All people can do is to give out their honest view and have people make their own deductions.
I just feel they create as the headlines would be, forget about the facts, whether they're true or not, the headlines will just be more focused on the Arabs losing than the Israelis losing. Like, I'll give you an example, if there would be like a terrorist attack, and then the Israelis would retaliate and, bomb a terrorist, his home or something, they'll probably publicize terrorists killed in raid by Israelis rather than Israelis killed by terrorists.
Well, some media people believe that Israel's reaction to terrorism is over the top. Now, I understand Israel's difficulty in that it is a nation, to all intents and purposes, surrounded by enemies.
There's a cool, there's a way of saying, the reason why when Arabs would kill a few people, the Israelis attack much more. One of the reasons is because I'll give an example, if the Arabs would capture an Israeli soldier or something, they'd ask for thousands of prisoners. It just shows that they hold thousands of us as one of theirs.
Your impartiality astounds me. I believe the Old Testament, which some people in Israel and elsewhere believe, says an eye for an eye isn't really the way forward. But if you're suggesting that it's okay for Israel to take a family because they've lost an eye, I would say that is wrong. I'm not saying Israel does that, but if a person believes that is what Israel has done, then they will criticise Israel for that. If the facts are contrary to that, then their view will be held falsely, if you like, or unsupported by facts.
Mm-hmm. But there's nothing like since they're not actually doing anything wrong to the media, even though they are technically inciting them, you can't really do anything.
Well, I mean, it is a fact. Whether it should be or not is irrelevant. It is a fact that as far as the United Nations are concerned, and that's the only independent arbiter we have, and it's not as independent as it should be, because nothing is totally independent, but the United Nations actually believes that Israel is occupying land which they have no right to occupy, and defending that occupation with weaponry. Now, I'm not saying they do that, but that's what the United Nations appears to think they do. So it's difficult for the media and others to say, well, yeah, but they're just making that up, or what have you. That is an independent-ish view.
I'm curious. You hold more. What do you hold of that view? Would you hold more of the?
I don't have a side.
I get it. It's just because, I don't know. I feel it belongs to Jews simply because they were way before.
Well, your view is valid. I'm not trying to change your view. Your view is valid. You've made it clear, and I've no desire to change it. I'm sorry.
It's more of a fact than a view, since it's like a fact who came first.
Well, that's tricky as to who came first. I mean, you're relying on documentation that, quite frankly, I don't even believe. You're relying on biblical stuff, which is, as far as I'm concerned, all hogwash.
They found lots of ancient parchments or ancient pottery, or like dug up houses from which show signs Jews were living there way before.
Well, yes, there may well have been. Jews were living everywhere. Jews are living right now in Greater Manchester, in Preston, in Liverpool, and all over the place. But that doesn't mean that they historically own that land and drive out others. Doesn't mean that they do that. Jews live all over the planet. Thank God they do. They make a massive contribution to the economy of our planet. But that doesn't mean that they own bits of it by dint of the fact some Jews lived there. Do you believe that America should be owned by the American...
by Indian.
By if you want to ask the question, feel free. I was asking it, but you can ask it if you want. What was it?
To be honest, it was very wrong for the Americans to go and kill them the way they done. But I don't know. Israel is different because...
Let me ask you the question. Let me ask you the question. Do you believe that America is owned by the American government? Yes or no?
I think yes.
You think yes? But
I'm not so good at American politics.
Well, you don't have to be good on American politics. I'm sure you've seen the odd cowboy film. And one is forced to say that Christopher Columbus and other Western people went over there and found it. It wasn't lost, but there were people already living there. And maybe it should be their world. Rather like you're saying with the Jews that lived in the area we now call Israel. The Jews lived there, so it is theirs. Well, the reason there weren't Palestinians living there was because the Arabs, as you described them, it's a perfect term, were Bedouin, so they didn't live in any individual place. A bit like in Australia, the Aborigines, as they're called, don't own Australia anymore, and the argument went they didn't want it. They never stayed anywhere long enough. Well, that's because they moved. Their life was moving, but it didn't mean it wasn't their land. And then along comes a white guy and says, I'm having that. So just because people were there doesn't mean that they are the owners of it, and it is their exclusive right to govern it.
So the same goes for the Arabs. They're saying it's their land, which is even less untrue. They came later.
Well, you see, you say they came later. I don't know how you know that.
There's just lots of facts that the Jews were living earlier.
Okay.
The Western Wall.
According to your belief, Patrick, the great problem with the Middle East is truth lost its way hundreds of years ago, thanks in no small part to the British government, but truth lost its way, and it's having trouble finding its way back. like the Northern Ireland. Truth lost its way. Can't find its way back. And the Middle East will not be resolved, and this will hurt somebody, the Middle East will not be resolved until leaders, and that's tricky with Palestine because there aren't Palestinian leaders who have universal control, so we're a long way away from here, but at some point the leaders on both sides will have to be prepared to allow some of their people to be butchered without retaliation, and it won't be resolved until that state is reached. And my guess is it's a couple of centuries away.
Yeah, everyone says it's extremely complex war.
Yes, it is.
It's ongoing.
But it will only be resolved when it comes down to, should we stop killing each other? And the problem is they've reached that a couple of times. And it held for a while, and then one renegade decides to kill somebody, and it all falls apart. And it's not just the agreeing not to kill, but it's the strength of character to not respond to deaths. And as I say, I'm not saying they're wrong in what they're doing now. I'm just saying that that's when you can start resolving things. And that's a couple of centuries away at the earliest.
Yeah. It's extremely complex war.
It's complex, and yet it's not. It's simple. We can't live together.
Yeah, agreements have not worked. We saw even in I think when the United Nations split up originally, the Arabs attacked even whatever they gave to the Jews.
Well, Patrick,
they tried to push them back.
Patrick, as long as people are pointing the finger of blame, there will be no resolution.
Yeah.
And not pointing the finger of blame is very, very, very difficult. And as I say, in the Middle East, that bit of the Middle East, it won't happen for at least 2 centuries.
Yeah. And going back on the earlier point, what would you say, like, to Israelis? Let's say, I'll give an example. Let's say a terror attack now, which happened this Saturday, is on Friday. I think 3 terror attacks, even an 11-year-old Palestinian child with a gun went around shooting. What would you say is the best way for Israelis to retaliate?
I don't know. I really don't know. But I do know that the way they do, and the word you chose was retaliate, I think respond would have been better, but retaliate is what the mindset is on both sides, and as long as the mindset is retaliate, the solution doesn't exist. It can't.
What could they do if they do anything too serious, as in like wipe out terrorists? The world will complain, fully understand. Like, and if they don't do anything, then the attacks will just keep happening.
Well, you may be correct, but as I say, the process that is being followed doesn't stop it. It merely keeps it going. Now, I'm not suggesting that anyone is going to say, OK, we're going to stop retaliating. But until somebody does, on both sides, it won't be resolved. And that's hundreds of years away.
Yeah. All right, then.
All right. Have a good night, Patrick. Good to have a conversation with you. How do Jenny?
Hiya, Allan.
Right.
I was just dozing off to sleep, and things seemed quite mundane, and you had a very well-spoken gentleman came on to talk about the egg industry.
Oh, right.
And I was letting it wave over me, and then I've had to jump up and grab the phone. I just can't believe that, well, I do believe he was a conspiracy theorist, and I can't believe how convincingly he was talking about additives being put in the food chain, because my understanding of poultry farmers is listening to people who've become vegan and vegetarian is partly because of egg produce and hens, because the minute hens start laying less eggs, the farmers slaughter them. And it's a very cruel thing to say. So I was a bit taken in at first, and then it became about the additives. And I just want to make the comment, Allan. I tell you, as sure as eggs is eggs, it's only been on your programme, but I bet there'll be a rush on eggs. There will be a shortage.
Maybe the chap was on. He's cleverer than we think, and he's got an egg shop.
Well, you never know. Or he makes the grain that comes from goats.
Indeed, yes.
Farmers telling them it works.
Yeah, so let's all do that. I would posit that goat feed is more expensive than chicken feed, which is why we have the expression chicken feed.
Yeah, well, sleep is very far from me now. It just sounded so convincing, and it became stupid. And I know that farming is a cut price thing, and as far as farmers are concerned, egg produce, as soon as it stops, the hens are slaughtered. And it is a very, very cruel industry. I don't know whether it's cruel to,
they're just machines for feeding us. That's it.
Yeah, but would they go to the extent of buying all this other food to see if they can lay better eggs?
No. Unless, of course, they've thought, hang on a minute, if I slaughter these, I've got no more. So I need to sort out these somehow.
I was I was on my way to sleep. And I was so completely... I've never been aware. I've listened to conspiracy theories, but I've never heard one from scratch that was so convincing at first and then became so gullible. But I will make a prediction. There will be a shortage of eggs in this country.
Just in supermarkets tomorrow, there may well be. Yes, people rushing out. I must have my boiled egg. But Jenny, I'm glad you got up to talk to us. Thank you very much indeed. Have a good night. Aldo, Anne.
Hello, Allan.
Hello, Anne.
We spoke earlier regarding Neil, and the fact that you cut him off, and your response was that you didn't. Wondering if you could expand upon that, please.
It's hard to expand on. I don't care.
Well, I'm asking for your justification in why you chose to cut him off.
He asked a question, which was going to be a joke. He said, what's the difference between Scousers and as far as I'm concerned...
Amoebas.
Good night. 0800 218 2255. You want to join us, you can. If you want to take the mickey out of a group of people, then you're on the wrong programme. You're entitled to have your say until I'm fed up of it. And then I'll cut you off. Just like Anne twice and Neil. Tell me all the jokes you like, but if it's got a collective victim, don't expect to get to the end of it. Now do Darren.
Oh yeah, are you alright, Allan?
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Awfully well, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about this knife crime.
Okay.
About that young girl in Hexham.
Be careful.
15-year-old.
Be careful, because somebody's been charged, I think, so we can't really talk about that specific case for legal reasons, but feel free to talk about knife crime.
Yeah, in general, I'm on about. All these people running around with knives. Shouldn't be allowed.
Well, it isn't allowed.
But the government is not doing anything about it.
Well, they do something about it. They, from time to time, have knife amnesties, for example, and they do a lot of work on trying to convince youngsters in schools and the like that they shouldn't carry knives. But one of the problems with laws is not everybody obeys them.
Well, you know the solution to it?
I don't know the solution, and I suspect you're going to tell it me.
Oh, it's a kind of solution. I don't mean like plastic knives. Why do people need knives? You know, when you cut your onion, you want you to cut your vegetables. You don't need a proper knife. You could use a stronger plastic knife.
Knife. Knife? Darren, you said you were going to tell me how to solve it. Would you like to do that?
Yeah, just plastic knives. So they can't hit your abdomen and they can't kill you, that's nice, can we? Just ban knives completely.
Ban knives?
Exactly.
It's going to play havoc with the butchery industry.
Well, up to them, isn't it?
What do you mean it's up to
What
them?
I'm saying... What I'm saying is they should have, like, seriously, something a bit stronger, obviously, recycled plastic, a bit stronger, or to cut things up, but nothing to pierce.
But how do you keep a sharp edge on a piece of plastic in the same way that you can with stainless steel? How do you do that?
Say again?
I said, how do you keep a fine edge, a cutting edge on a piece of plastic in the same way that you can do with a piece of steel?
Don't know, you tell me.
It's not my theory that we're trying to expand upon, but you're saying only allow plastic knives. I said, what about the butchery trade? And you say it's up to them. Well, it is up to them, and what they've decided is we need something that can cut stuff.
The butchery trade, obviously, is different. The butchers are not going out. They're not 15 or 16-year-olds killing each other, are they?
But you're saying we should ban knives, and if we ban knives, then we've banned guns. We don't make any exceptions. We've banned guns effectively. Now, if we ban knives, that will mean that the butchery trade cannot get them because it would be against the law to do so.
No. You know what I'm saying? Butchery trade, it should be obviously legalised. It's like, you know what I'm saying? It should be controlled.
And controlled. So the only people that could buy a knife would be, for example, a butcher. And maybe a chef, because they have to do a lot of cutting as well. Yeah. What about me? What about me if I want to, for example, cut my apple open?
What about you if you what?
If I wish to cut an apple.
That's what I'm saying. They should bring plastic knives in, a bit stronger than the plastic flimsy knives, but not like a piercing knife.
Strong enough perhaps to, I don't know, stab a person with, maybe.
No.
So
not strong enough to do that.
So it's got to be rubbery enough. Let's see if we can follow the logic. It's got to be rubbery enough, so if you stab somebody with it, it'll just bend.
Not rubbery enough.
Oh, right, so you want it rigid. So it's got to be rigid. Is it going to be rigid or not?
Well, it's got to be strong enough.
It's got to be strong enough.
Obviously, if you want to cut an onion or cut a carrot, it's got to be strong enough for that.
It's got to be strong enough for that. Now, do you think the knife that could cut a carrot could also slit a throat?
No, not if it's plastic.
You don't? All right. Your knowledge of knives is limited. How do Anne?
Hello.
Hello,
Allan.
Hello,
I
Anne.
just wanted... Last week you were talking about this plastic business and what a nuisance it is, and this getting back to glass bottles and a deposit on them, right? Well, when we were little, we used to take empty jars back to the co-op and get 8p for them. Right?
Yeah.
And I live in Preston. I was born in Preston. And there was a cinema, and it was called the Blackberry. And to get in to watch the film, it cost 8p and a jam jar. What about that?
It's all right. There was a barber in Lee who was building his own house, and he charged you a brick for a haircut. That's true. It wasn't the best haircut in the world, let me tell you, but he charged you a brick for it.
Grimes. Yeah, well, would you call that recycling, that jam jar business?
Well, I presume it must have been. I mean, they weren't keeping him in a shed somewhere for now. They were recycling him.
You know, to see a film.
It's not bad, is it? I went to see a film. I've not been to the cinema for years, and we went last Friday, I think it was. It might have been anyway. Last week, sometime. 20 quid. That was two, 10 quid a piece. 20 quid, 9.90 somewhere or other. I know. I won't be going again.
Was so many good?
It was excellent. It was absolutely excellent. It's the one. It's the Irish one, the Inniskillen, I think, is it? That's up at the moment for an Oscar, and it was absolutely brilliant. The reason we went to see it was because years ago we'd seen a film made by the same people called In Bruges that was absolutely brilliant. And this one was too. It was fantastic. It was a very, very good film. It's on the bloody telly now. If I'd have waited a week, I could have seen it for sod all. But there you are.
Yeah, well, it must have bbeen about over 90 years since I'm talking about.
Good Lord, woman.
I'm 95.
You could buy a car for about 30 quid then.
Yes. Yes.
Aren't you just a century for crying out loud?
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
I don't know I've lived this long. I keep saying to my family, how on earth have I lived all this length of time?
Eh?
Can't believe it.
Crikey. I sometimes think, because my dad was about the same age as you, a little bit older perhaps, a year or two, but he died a few years back. But I used to think he was alive when motor cars were virtually non-existent.
Yeah.
You know, and planes, getting on a plane. I mean, he became a paratrooper eventually, but he must have thought when he was a kid he would never ever fly on a plane. You know,
and jump out of one.
And jump out, yeah.
How did he have the courage to do that?
He was crackers, love.
I wonder why.
Right, steady now. You can't blame me. I wasn't born.
Oh, all right then.
I've told this story before, but when he went away to the army, when he was, during the war, when he reached 18 or whatever the rules were then, and he went away to the army, and then they do their basic training, and then they get sent to wherever they're going. And all his mates had finished their basic training and came back for a week's leave in Warrington. And my grandma, my dad's mother, met his best mate and said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "We're home on leave. We've finished training." And she said, "Well, where's George?" She said, "He said he's joined the suicide squad." "Wait till I get my bloody hands on him," she said. But there you go. Lord. That's mothers for you. Looking for a reason to belt you.
I once asked if it's a bit since I asked if your dad. We used to serve on the Preston Station buffet, my friend and I.
Aye.
You know, free to the troops. And we used to go out to the train and serve the troops when it was full. And I once asked if I wondered if your dad might have been on that train, because one of them shouted, "What's your name?" And I said, "It's Anne." And he said, "I'll come back and marry you, Anne." And I thought, let me know. I could have been your mother.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been me dad.
No.
He was very, very loyal, was me dad, even to me, and I was a bloody nuisance. Very, very loyal. Yeah. In fact, when my mum died about 25 years ago, and somebody asked him after a while, she'd been dead a decade or something, and said to him, I was there, and said to him, "Hey George, why have you never remarried?" And he said, "When you've had the best, what's the point?"
Precisely. Yes.
Precisely. He wasn't full of bon mot, my dad, but good to talk to you, Anna. Lovely evening. Have a good night. Sleep well. How do Gary?
Hey, Allan. I don't want to offend anybody. I'm not registered schizophrenic, but I've got a joke about schizophrenia and I want to tell it.
You've got a joke about?
Schizophrenia.
I don't even know what that was.
I'm a registered schizophrenic, but am I allowed to tell a joke?
Schizophrenia? That depends, because there are no jokes about schizophrenia. There are only jokes about the people that suffer from it, but we'll see how we go. Go on.
Two schizophrenics in a pub chatting away. One says to the other, "Hang on a minute. Shh. Did you hear nothing?"
Okay. Well, as jokes go, but thank you. How do, Allan?
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Hello, Allan, all right?
Going very well, thank you.
Good. I just want to say about that bloke there saying about his, was it you and your mother saying, like, what's the point in marrying somebody else when you've had the best?
Well, yeah, well, it's your dad that said it, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, true. My dad said the same about when I lost my mother, but can I just say something? These jokes here about Scousers and...
Please don't finish that sentence. Go on, jokes about Scousers, carry on.
No, jokes about Scousers and Manx. It has got to stop. It's gone on too long, that is. Enough's enough, you know what I mean? I want banter, I want banter between Liverpool and Manchester. But what they come out with now, it's just gone too deep. It's enough's enough. You know what I mean?
Well, you're probably talking about football fans, and they aren't my favourite people. How do, Jacqueline?
Good morning. That lady, was her name Anne?
Possibly.
What a delightful lady she was. She should come on more often. Plastic versus knives. In prison, don't the prisoners get stabbed with their toothbrushes?
Yeah.
Are they plastic?
I presume so.
Yeah. So that goes his argument. Can I ask, do you ever watch I don't know what you call it, called Yesterday?
Call Yesterday?
On the telly. Yeah, that's the name of the, what do you call it?
Well, I've never seen a programme called Call Yesterday, so no.
No, it's not a programme. But it's very, very interesting. Did you know that America was attacked by Germany?
No.
Well, it was on this week when I was watching this programme. It's a programme. It's a television station thing. And what happened was, Delaware, the name of the place, and the German U-boats got in there and bombed or torpedoed loads and loads of boats, and there was about 5,000 odd Marines killed in the attack.
Right.
And they said, well, you know, nobody talks about it. Well, America doesn't want to talk about it because it was awful. But it was amazing. And what do you call these?
They talk about the attack on Pearl Harbor, and that was pretty awful. So why would they not talk about this in historic?
Because the U-boats got into Delaware and bombed all their boats. Loads and loads of boats.
Yeah, I'm not doubting the attack. This was World War I anyway, wasn't it?
2, I think.
I'm just reading here
in Delaware.
When German U-boats brought World War I to the Delaware coast, the arrival of Cape Hanlopen of the 18 survivors of the U-boat attack on a passenger ship brought World War I to the coast of Delaware. That's what I'm...
No, these are loads of ships. Loads of ships.
Right. Okay. Well, there we are. World War II. While U-853 sunk one of the last ships destroyed in World War II, the Collier Black Point near the entrance to Long Island. It was attacked on May the 5th. I don't know whether that's near Delaware. The torpedo slammed into their ship before dawn on Jan 27, 1942 in the waters of the Atlantic coast off Delmarva. That's also described as Delaware. So the idea that hundreds or loads of ships were done, that's not what it's saying. The destroyer and the sub were about 25 miles off the coast of Cape May when Germans fired a spread of torpedoes, hitting the port side. So again, no suggestion that there were dozens of ships.
Yeah, well, it showed you pictures of it on this. What do you call these not programs?
Well, if it's on the
channels. That's right, channels called Yesterday, and
so the channel's called Yesterday.
Yeah, and it's very, very interesting. It's called Abandoned Engineering, and it's extremely interesting. And that was on this week. It's normally on about 10 till 11, I think.
Well, the programmes on those channels are on at all different times because they recycle the same programmes for a period of time, and then I suppose they change the roster, but they go on at all sorts of different times. Anyway, there we are. So you're saying that programme said that lots of people were killed and many ships were destroyed, and the Americans don't talk about it.
5,000 odd people, 5,000 odd Marines.
Well, I can't gainsay it, but there's no evidence of it on the quick bit of research I've just done, but that doesn't mean...
And there's also a place in Ukraine. It was designed by Catherine. I don't know if it's Catherine the Great. And it had 13,000 miles of tunnels underneath this building.
Right.
Building is absolutely beautiful.
It wouldn't just be under one building, would it? 30,000 miles. That would be.
Yeah, well, it was different levels, different tiers.
It still won't be 30,000 miles unless it went away from under the building. But if you accessed it via the via the building, that's fine.
Because they used to chuck things in. Because people were sheltering underneath. No, maybe not miles, but it had more tonnage than, got wind, Paris and somewhere else. And it was absolutely, as I say, different levels, and it was on and on and on. And they went in and chucked all sorts of things in to kill these people, this gas and whatever. But it's a very, very interesting thing for you to watch.
Channel.
Because I think it's up your street. I think it's up your street.
Well, thank you very much for the recommendation. Aldo, Bernard.
Hello, Allan. Facts, figures and myths are amazing, Andy. All these facts and figures. I was on last night about, the American Pie.
Okay.
And I've actually found the truth that happened to the guy who come on. He was technically right, but he was wrong in the fact that the plane was never ever called that. The plane was actually number N3794N by Dyer's Flying Services. It was never called that. And in 1999, Don McLean actually said that it was a myth. But he kept him playing his song, you see, so that's probably why he kept it going. And, of course, Madonna did such a terrible version of it later on. But it's like myths that carry on. The Bamba Gascoigne supposed to have done the solo in Baker Street. That was never true neither. Everyone thinks it was.
I've never heard it. I've heard Baker Street. I've never heard the tale that Bamba Gascoigne did the solo.
Oh yeah, it was a well-known thing. It was one of these quiz questions. Everyone said, "No, that's not true. That's not true at all." No, but the fact was that it was never called American Pie. It was just called N3794N, just to put the record straight. Anyway, so unfortunately, that guy was wrong.
Fine. Okay.
So I'll leave you with it now. Good night and God bless you. Ta-ra, kid.
All right. Ta-ra. I'll do Tom.
Oh, good morning, Allan.
Good morning.
I'm just giving a quick call because I was getting extremely concerned over the guy who was becoming ecstatic over his conspiracy theory over the lack of eggs. But I think I've finally cracked it.
Very good.
I think what it is too many chickens have crossed the road.
That could be it.
And
that was so they never got to the other side. No, that's fine. That's excellent.
That could be what it is.
It could be. It's the best explanation we've had so far.
That's everything.
Well, thank you, Tom. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, that's great. You've still got time. It's 20 to 1. We go at 1 o'clock. Here's a show, you know, when they do it. And they do, I don't know what it's called, but they do a show where they're sort of not there, but they are. And they're still doing it. I saw it advertised in the paper today. I didn't book a ticket. And it's only in London. There you go. London gets everything, doesn't it? Including fleas. How do, Carla?
Hello, Allan.
Hello.
I rang you up last Saturday or Sunday, I can't remember which day it was, about the nuisance neighbour.
Yes, I remember, I think.
And you told me to do recordings and go to citizens' advice.
Yeah.
I've took recordings, I rang the house, I rang the citizens' advice on the Monday, but it wasn't open till Tuesday, so I rang them. I rang New Progress Monday, the Housing Association on Monday, and there was only taking emergency calls. So I rang the Housing Association on Tuesday. I asked for the housing officer's number directly because I hadn't seen her. And I told her that I took recordings and I've been making a diary in January. And they turned around and said there was nothing they could do. So I went, right, that's fine. And I said, could I just please have the housing officer's name, please, who's in charge of my area? I rang the South People, the council up near my area, and I had to get through to the environmental health, which was Friday. I rang them up. I rang New Progress up every day. I rang the Housing Association up every day last week, hoping to get somewhere. And I didn't. So Friday afternoon, I rang the environmental health, and they took all my details, and they were great. And I kept a diary still. But it's still happening.
Yeah.
And I've lost two interviews this week because of the noise.
Well, I mean, Carla, I have to tell you, which is not anything you want to hear, but it is a long process to sort noisy neighbours out. A very long process. And charged with disappointment every other step. But it's the only process. There isn't another one, other than to ask the Housing Association to move you. And that's rarely satisfactory because they think, well, we'll move you, but you're not going to anywhere as nice as this because, you know, if you want to move...
Well, obviously, it's not a nice area, is it, basically? The rest of the people in the block are great. Absolutely great.
And do they, too, complain about the noise that their neighbours make?
The one across from me, he suffers from paranoia and schizophrenia, so he's too scared of doing it, but he hears it.
But and do any others? Have you spoken to the other neighbours about whether...
Yeah, the one directly across from the lady upstairs from me, she's complained about them as well. And the one up top from across from my neighbour upstairs, he's on nights, so he doesn't hear it.
Right. And is the other neighbour that is complaining, not the gentleman who's poorly, but the other neighbour who has complained, has she been keeping a diary also?
I don't know. She
Have a
hasn't
chat
said
with them,
anything.
because if a number of tenants complain, that puts the housing association in a more difficult position, because there is an obligation on housing association tenancies to that people get on with the community that they share. But unfortunately, quite a lot of housing associations only give us stuff about whether they're making any money or not.
Yeah, more into his profit and budget.
Yeah,
I
you know,
respect that.
they're a business. You know, that's how they are, and it's not a good thing. It's just how they are. They can't help that.
So basically, there's nothing I can do.
Well, no, I'm not saying there's nothing you can do. I'm saying you've got to keep pressing away at it, and it starts with disappointment. I mean, what you really need is to talk to your local MP as well. So if next time your MP has a surgery, go along to that. Take your diary that you've been keeping, take your recordings and say, look, take a list. Keep a list of every time you talk to the housing association or the environmental health people, and say to the MP,
been doing.
Good. And say to the MP, look, this is all the times I've tried to get it sorted. This is what I have to live with. Just have a listen to this, you know? And the MP might think, hang on a minute, we better rattle the cage of the housing association here. It's worth a try.
Yeah, they're absolutely pathetic housing associations.
Well, yeah, some of them are. Some of them are brilliant, but, you know, some aren't. It's... they're in, you know, it's not an easy business that they're in, not by any means, but that's still no excuse for not doing what they're there to do. They are social housing.
Well, the lady who they put above me, she comes from a very rough estate, and I mean a proper rough estate. And why, when this blocks of flats, I've had no problems whatsoever. Why would they put something like that in a block?
Often.
I don't understand it. Why they would want to do that to people.
Well, often, and I don't know why this works, and it doesn't always, but often moving a disruptive neighbour to another property actually gets them to behave differently. That is often what happens, more often than not as it happens. So that might be the thinking about what they've done, but clearly it appears not to have worked here, if indeed she was moved because she was not liked where she was. But we don't know that, so we can only operate...
we don't know the situation, so we can't go guessing.
But your position isn't to try and work out why they've done it, because that just gives you a headache.
I just want out of this situation. I don't...
Exactly. Well,
I've lost 2 interviews this week because the noise has been going on till 4 o'clock, and I've not woken up because I've been that tired.
Well, Carly, again, I say that it is a long, horrible process, and I've got every sympathy with your position, but
it's
regrettably...
awful, Allan.
I know, but what I'm saying to you is you have to drive it along. It won't happen on its own. And try your MP. That's another step you can take. Keep on at the environmental health people, because they have an obligation to deal with it, and that's the tack that the MP might take, and saying, look, this is...
I'll give them time, because I only rang them up on Friday.
Okay, well, who knows what the outcome will be, but keep at it. Don't give up. That's the thing, Carla. All right, and good luck.
Could I ring you up next weekend, please?
You can ring me any weekend you like. For as long as I'm here, you can ring me. That's why I'm here. But have a good night, Carla. The best night you can have in the circumstance. I'll do Gary.
Hey, Allan. I just wanted to speak about things related to the film Clockwork Orange.
Okay.
You know when he says he's got a pain in his gullet there, and when they try to provoke him to be violent, What is all that about?
I have no idea. I've never seen the film.
You've never seen Clockwork Orange?
Correct.
I think, well, I've seen it and I've got an opinion about it. I think that could be extended to just finding any joy in anything that's just basic and wholesome and harmless.
I didn't understand the question, really.
Do you think?
Can I?
Do you think it could be? No.
I have no idea what anything in the Clockwork Orange means or meant. I've never seen it.
Do you want me to explain?
By all means. But then, if you explain and then ask me, I'll only have what you've told me to go on, which isn't really the way to form an opinion, but please tell me.
Well, he was brainwashed into... he was a violent person, and he was brainwashed into not being violent.
Right.
And whenever violence was a trigger, he had a pain in his gulliver, which was in the film meant his stomach. And then somebody when they were explaining it to other people, like ministers and stuff, as a process to de-violent, if that's the word, population, they humiliated him, they interrogated him and made him come to a point where he was going to be violent, and then he just was like, he was retching like he was going to be sick.
Right.
So that's what they did to him. So what I was going to say is, do you think that somebody could do that to somebody in order that they don't find, I'm not talking about the state, and I'm not talking about the BBC, I'm not talking about anything that's political. Do you think an individual could do that to another individual where they don't find any joy in anything that's wholesome?
I suppose it's possible to achieve anything with the right skills, but what those skills would be, I'm the faintest, Gary, but you can hear the music in the background. That means we're going. I am home already, but staying here, your call is over. That's the way the world works. It's a cruel and bitter world, I suppose, and I've no idea what Clockwork Orange was all about. Very sorry. Nothing I can do. He's nad sorry at all. That's the front page of the Metro. He's nad sorry. Got it? No? Sunak's allies blame Johnson for Tory sleaze after the PM sacks the highway. That's the front of the Eye. Boris Putin told me I could kill you in a minute. Daily Express. Oh dear, only a minute. Rotten to the core, says the Mirror. Tories engulfed by sleaze. Putin's threat to kill Boris, says the Daily Mail. Oh dear, I don't want to hurt you, but with a missile, it would only take a minute. A missile? Bloody hell, fire. Of course it would. I've been Beswick. You've been brilliant. See you next Saturday. Have a good week. Ta-ra.
5. BBC News at 1 o'clock. This is Sally Johnson. Nadeem Zahawi has been sacked from the cabinet after an investigation found he breached the ministerial code 7 times. A report said the former party chairman and chancellor had repeatedly broken rules on how government ministers should behave by failing to disclose an HMRC investigation into his taxes. David Campbell Bannerman is a former Conservative MEP for the East of England and says action against Mr Zahawi should have been taken faster.
He was penalised by HMRC, and we assume HMRC, were fair about that. They did make it clear that that was unusual. If you penalise someone on that tax basis, then that's not normal. So I think action could have been taken a lot quicker, and he should have gone earlier.
The Housing Secretary, Michael Gove, has admitted government failures were partly to blame for the Grenfell Tower fire, which killed 72 people in 2017. He's set to announce new rules to deal with unsafe cladding, including a 6-week deadline for developers to sign a contract to fix dangerous towers or face being banned from the housing market. For the first time, reporters will be allowed into family courts in England and Wales today as part of a new pilot which aims to allow more scrutiny of court proceedings. Journalists will be given access to 3 court centres in Cardiff, Leeds and Carlisle, where they will be able to report what they see and hear and speak to families, provided they keep their identities anonymous. Sir Andrew McFarlane, the most senior judge in the family court, authorised the experiment.
It's very significant. For decades, this has been talked about, but it has been put in the too difficult box because of the need to open up, but at the same time keep closed the identity of the family.
The Scottish Government has paused the movement of transgender prisoners with a history of violence towards women to all female jails. That's while the prison service completes a review of its transgender policy. The company behind Scotland's only gold mine says it wants to develop several more sites in the coming year. Scott Gold Resources says it's also found another vein of gold at its Coninish mine, which could boost production. David Henderson reports.
There's high demand for gold among investors and the world's central banks. That's pushed up the price to more than £1,500 per ounce. For now, Scotland's only gold mine is in the side of a mountain at Coninish in the West Highlands. Its owner, Scott Gold Resources, is preparing to increase production there with the aim of extracting 2,000 ounces of gold every month, worth millions of pounds. A newly discovered seam of gold means the life of this mine could rise from 8 years to more than 18 years, and the firm says its prospectors have found much more gold in the surrounding hills. It wants to open a series of new mines to recover it.
BBC News, it's 1:03. On BBC